Chapter 1372, Battle. Chapter 1372, Battle. On Sword Star, Jian Wushuang watched Luo Quan and the others leave with no facial expression. Luo Quan is really strong. I performed the Blood Knight technique with my all and I erupted my soul attack entirely. Theoretically, even an ordinary universe god in the third heaven would find it difficult to resist. However, he encountered my soul attack directly and wasn't affected at all. His consciousness is very strong and he is much stronger in power than me. Jian Wushuang complimented him, but he was looking at Qiu Yu next to him. Qiu Yu looked strange. Why? Are you disappointed in my power? Jian Wushuang said casually. No. I believe that you becoming the disciple of Lineage of Star definitely meant that you are unusually capable. Even if you aren't Luo Quan's match now, you could definitely catch up in no time, Qiu Yu said. Jian Wushuang smiled when he heard that, but his pupils contracted. He didn't care about victory or defeat. Even if he lost to Luo Quan, he wouldn't be bothered. His power was weaker compared to the universe gods in the second heaven after all. However, such weakness wouldn't persist. Qiu Yu, when Luo Quan left earlier, he mentioned something about the battle between disciples of Star Palace. What is it? Jian Wushuang asked. That's a battle aiming to fight for the right to become a disciple of Star Palace. In Lineage of Star, it will be conducted every 5,000 years, Qiu Yu said. Oh. Jian Wushuang looked. Mister, you just came to Lineage of Star. There are many things that you have yet to know. In Lineage of Star, it has always been power defines one's position, Qiu Yu explained. Under normal circumstances, the disciples of Star Palace have always had 15 slots. Among them, 5 are universe gods in the third heaven, 5 are universe god in the second heaven and 5 are universe gods in the first heaven. In other words, they selected top 5 strongest universe gods in each heaven to join Star Palace. The selection method is conducted through a battle between disciples in Star Palace that is held every 5,000 years in Lineage of Star. In the battle, the 5 strongest will become disciples of Star Palace while the rest will be ordinary disciples. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood then. In other words, although I am a disciple of Star Palace now, if I fail to be in the top 5 strongest among universe gods in the second heaven in the battle 800 years later, I will be degraded as an ordinary disciple? Yes, Qiu Yu nodded. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows and he immediately felt pressure from the bottom of his heart. In Lineage of Star, there was a huge difference between the disciples of Star Palace and ordinary disciples. Especially considering that Real God Hall, Scripture Depository, Reset Palace, the 3 main cultivation resource were only occupied by disciples of Star Palace. Jian Wushuang, of course, wanted to maintain his position as a disciple of Star Palace. However, with his ability then, he was at the bottom of the universe gods in the second heaven within Lineage of Star. I only have 800 years. Jian Wushuang held his fists tight and his eyes were twinkling with energy. 800 years wasn't short to him. With 800 years' time, with the aid of cultivation resources in Lineage of Star, he might stand a chance. Mister, you lost to Luo Quan today before the other few disciples. If I'm not mistaken, they definitely will spread the word. By then, I'm afraid it would trigger the suspicion and dissatisfaction of many other disciples. There might be other disciples who come to challenge you. You must be mentally prepared. Qiu Yu reminded. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. My current power is too weak. I have to admit. Whether or not they suspect me, has nothing to do with me. If they want to challenge me, by all means, come. There is no difference between losing 1 battle and 100 battles anyway. Jian Wushuang didn't care. On the contrary, he hoped that the disciples in Lineage of Star would look for him. Jian Wushuang treated the fights with the geniuses as a kind of training. Plus, he had already lost to Luo Quan. So what if he were to lose to other ordinary disciples? He didn't care about victory or defeat. The only thing that he cared about was his strength and the result of the battle that would happen 800 years later. Just as Qiu Yu has predicted, the news about Jian Wushuang being defeated by Luo Quan spread like wildfire in Lineage of Star. At the same time, the mirror image of their battle was spread across Lineage of Star too. On top of that, the image of Jian Wushuang trying to catch a meta beast in the Milky Way was spread along too. The moment the images spread, it suddenly stirred a commotion in the entire Lineage of Star. The disciples in Lineage of Star were all astonished. They were shocked at the fact that Jian Wushuang was defeated by Luo Quan. There were many geniuses in Lineage of Star after all. It was normal that an ordinary disciple win against disciples in Star Palace occasionally. Plus, Jian Wushuang just got to the Lineage of Star and he had yet to cultivate while utilizing the resource in Lineage of Star. It was nothing if his power wasn't ahead of Luo Quan. What shocked the disciples was that the power that Jian Wushuang revealed was really too weak. Weak? How could he be so weak? He can't even do anything to a 3-meter-tall meta beast and he is a disciple of Star Palace. I heard that he couldn't even pass through the first floor of Star Tower. Is this a joke? Universe God in the second heaven with only this level of power, there are so many in Purple Moon Sanctuary. What is Hall Master Yuan thinking? How could they let such a person become a disciple of Star Palace? These disciples couldn't understand how Jian Wushuang, with such a weak power, had become a disciple of Star Palace. As they couldn't understand, it naturally became dissatisfaction towards the higher-ups of Lineage of Star. Unfair. I put in so much effort but I could only maintain my position as an ordinary disciple. But Jian Wushuang is a disciple of Star Palace with only such power? Would Jian Wushuang be one of the Hall Master's illegitimate children or is he related to the Palace Master by any chance? Otherwise, why would the higher-ups of Lineage of Star take such a good care of him? Lineage of Star was filled with dissatisfaction and complaints. The disciples of Star Palace was definitely an existence that countless ordinary disciples in Lineage of Star envied. The 3 most precious cultivation resources in Lineage of Star had always been the special privilege that disciples of Star Palace possessed while ordinary disciples stood almost no hope at all. All this while, the ordinary disciples fought for a chance to become a disciple of Star Palace. Those who were lucky enough to become disciples of Star Palace relied on their power and proved themselves to become one. Hence, these ordinary disciples could only accept them. However, the ordinary disciples were then unhappy with the appearance of Jian Wushuang and the power that he revealed. The ordinary disciples complained that Lineage of Star was unfair and that the higher-ups were biased. Chapter 1373, Unfair. Chapter 1373, Unfair. On the Sword Star, a new round of the ongoing battle was happening. Bang! A giant axe hit Jian Wushuang directly, blasting at both him and his sword. It took Jian Wushuang quite a while to regain his stability. Is he worth his identity as a disciple from the Star Palace? Ridiculous. The man using the axe glanced at Jian Wushuang with contempt and left. Outside of the Sword Star, many disciples were watching the battle. Jian Wushuang has already lost 12 battles consecutively. 13, if we count the battle with Luo Quan. It is the first time that I have seen such a weak disciple from the Star Palace. Many disciples were gossiping about Jian Wushuang. He just joined the Star Palace by luck. Still, he is quite resilient and never gave up, even though he was defeated by multiple times. Resilient? I think he is stupid. He may step down in 800 years. I would be meaningless to waste time discussing him. Many disciples left. They had gradually lost interest in Jian Wushuang and no one challenged him anymore. Amongst those who were still watching Jian Wushuang were 2 particular figures. Hall Master Yuan and Lei Chao. Hall Master Yuan sighed, he is having a difficult time. Of course. How can it be easy to pretend to be a universe god in the second heaven when he is only in the first heaven? Lei Chao said. Recently, many disciples as well as many real gods have complained to me that it is unfair to let Jian Wushuang in. Nonsense. It is only unfair to Jian Wushuang, not them. Lei Chao murmured. But they don't know the truth, so we can't blame them either. Let's just see what will happen in the future. Obstacles are good for him. But if Jian Wushuang becomes an ordinary disciple, he will lose many resources. Lei Chao said. Maybe we won't have to worry about this just now. Just wait. Hall Master Yuan said smilingly and left. Lei Chao also left. After ordinary disciples lost interest in Jian Wushuang, he finally had time to devote himself to cultivation. He was now in the Reset Palace. He was sitting in the palace with a strong consciousness attack around him. Under the attack, Jian Wushuang slowly increased his soul resilience. At the same time, he was consuming the power captured by the 4 meta beasts, which facilitated his soul power. With the help of the beast's power, I can increase my soul power faster. Jian Wushuang felt satisfied. After he had run out of all the meta beast power, he chose to leave the Reset Palace and started to travel around the 9 shrines. Although the 9 shrines were not as valuable as the real God Hall and the Reset Palace, they could still help cultivators a lot. Especially the Shrine of Myriad Swords. The Shrine of Myriad Swords was used for cultivating swordsmanship. It was home to countless secret skills, the procedures of which could be demonstrated through screens. There were so many high-level secret skills that were convenient to learn. The Shrine of Myriad Swords could definitely help Jian Wushuang improve his swordsmanship. Now my cultivation of swordsmanship is going through a bottleneck and I need a breakthrough. Maybe I could draw some inspiration and make a breakthrough here. Jian Wushuang was delighted. From then on, Jian Wushuang went to the Shrine of Myriad Swords and the Reset Palace every day. The Reset Palace forced Jian Wushuang to strengthen his consciousness. But he needed to relax after spending time under too much pressure. He chose to go to the Shrine of Myriad Swords to learn swordsmanship and occasionally caught meta beasts to absorb energy. Time passed quickly. Jian Wushuang had been in the lineage of Star for 30 years. In the Shrine of Myriad Swords. With a harsh sound, a bright flash of light burst out from Jian Wushuang's sword. The light transformed into a scarlet phoenix which could generate overwhelming power. As the light dissipated, the phoenix also disappeared. Jian Wushuang had succeeded. Finally, I have made a breakthrough in the past 30 years and created a peak rank 2 secret skill. Jian Wushuang was satisfied. Without resources in the lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang would have had to spend much more time. But, inspired by resources from the Shrine of Myriad Swords, he had made a breakthrough within only 30 years. It would take a long time to create a rank 3 secret skill. Jian Wushuang, you should integrate the peak rank 2 secret skill into your Blood Mountain sword to make it more powerful, King of Venomous Worms commented. You are right. Jian Wushuang was inspired. Chapter 1374, Unfortunate Experience in the Milky Way. Chapter 1374, Unfortunate Experience in the Milky Way. Cultivation time waited for no man. To those experts at the top of the eternal chaotic world, such as Almighty like the founder of Lineage of Star, 10,000 years or 100,000 years were all like the snap of his fingers. 1,000,000 years was merely a blink of an eye. Tens of millions of years wasn't long either. However, to Jian Wushuang that had yet to cultivate for 10,000 years, he could do many things in 800 years. It was his 120th year in Lineage of Star. Star Tower, first floor. Buzz. 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 Rays of swordlight swept out magically from Jian Wushuang continuously. Those sword lights were beautiful, and every ray was enchanting. His opponent, the middle-aged man with a long beard, wielded his sword. He was quick, accurate and brutal. He was extremely decisive in his moves. Both of their swordsmanships were exposed entirely and their swords collided over and over again. The collision of their sword lights reverberated through Star Tower. There was suddenly a sharp glare in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Billows. Gush. There was a boundless sword light that exploded. It looked like there was at least 1,000 rays of sword lights. The sword lights looked blurry and no one could tell which was real. Break! The middle-aged man bellowed and twitched. It slammed the core of the sword light like lightning and collided with the tip of the Blood Mountain sword. Ghosting. The divine power in Jian Wushuang's hand surged, and boundless sword lights overlapped one another as though 1,000 rays of sword light had gathered into one and suddenly erupted. What? The long-bearded middle-aged man looked astonished, but he couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the sword light directly. The first floor of Star Tower passed. Finally passed. There was joy in Jian Wushuang's eyes. When he first got to Star Tower, he was defeated by the long-bearded middle-aged man directly. He was far from passing the floor. However, 120 years later, although he had yet to create an advanced rank 3 unique skill, with the 2 beginner rank 3 unique skills and with his understanding of swordsmanship and killing technique, he had passed through the first floor of Star Tower. In Lineage of Star, most of the ordinary disciples who are Universe God in the second heaven could only pass through the first floor of Star Tower. I am barely even-handed with but not at the bottom like before, Jian Wushuang smiled. On the day Jian Wushuang passed through the first level of Star Tower, the news spread. Like a gentle breeze, there was not much response. Merely passing the first floor wasn't enough to catch the disciples' attention. If Jian Wushuang could pass through the second floor of the Star Tower, that might catch their attention. The meta strength that I obtained earlier finished. I have to catch a few meta beasts for supplementation. Jian Wushuang walked directly to the Milky Way after he left Star Tower. In the boundless Milky Way, Jian Wushuang wandered leisurely as his soul power spread. Soon, Jian Wushuang found his first meta beast. Oh, a 3-meter-tall meta beast? Jian Wushuang's eyes blinked. 120 years ago, the first time he came to catch a meta beast, it was also a 3-meter-tall meta beast. But then, he couldn't do anything about it and could only let it go. But now, Jian Wushuang immediately moved and suppressed the meta beast's speed with Blaze Quicksand Gourd. He caught up with it and took swift action. In a short time, the meta beast was caught alive. First, Jian Wushuang smiled and continued to wander around. 10 days passed. In the past 10 days, Jian Wushuang had caught 22 meta beasts to extract a large amount of meta strength. With the meta strength that I extracted, it should be enough for me to cultivate for a few years in Reset Palace. Let me catch one last one, Jian Wushuang made up his mind. Half an hour later, Jian Wushuang found his last meta beast. Quite a fat little one, huh? Jian Wushuang looked at the meta beast, which was huge and almost 4 meters tall. He was impressed. There were many meta beasts in the Milky Way. However, as the disciples in Lineage of Star always extracted their meta strength from them, there were very few that could reach 4 meters tall. Previously, Jian Wushuang had only come across one. Rumble. Jian Wushuang took action directly. The Blaze Quicksand Gourd suppressed the meta beast while he wielded Blood Mountain Sword and formed a boundless sword intention to cover the meta beast. Wow! Wow! A mere collision twice, as he was worried that he would hurt the meta beast, Jian Wushuang intentionally hit the meta beast's body with the body of Blood Mountain Sword. However, in the end, the meta beast retreated madly. Little one, don't struggle, Jian Wushuang smiled. The 4-meter-tall meta beast could tell that he couldn't win against the human attacker, so it started running madly. Even though it was within the scope of Blaze Quicksand Gourd, it still showed shocking speed. It looks like I'll need to put in some effort, Jian Wushuang sighed. The 4-meter-tall meta beast was obviously more difficult to deal with than expected. However, just as Jian Wushuang prepared to chase the meta beast, there was a figure that appeared before the meta beast. Then, there was a hand that swept like lightning and slapped the meta beast. The fierce force caused the meta beast to groan in pain. Then, the figure took action again and caught the meta beast easily. Jian Wushuang moved and came before the figure. Chu Yang, it's you. Jian Wushuang looked at the person before him calmly. He had a good impression of Chu Yang. After all, Chu Yang was the one who had him around to the lineage of Star back then. Jian Wushuang. Chu Yang took a glance at Jian Wushuang in disdain. Thank you for blocking the meta beast for me. Otherwise, it would take a while for me to catch it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Blocking it for you? Hee, I think you misunderstood the situation. Chu Yang looked cold and his voice was low. Although you were the one who saw the meta beast first, the person who caught it is me. The meta beast is naturally mine, and you. You'd better stay far away. Stay far away. Jian Wushuang was stunned, but he sneered in his heart. Chu Yang didn't know my power back then but only treated me with passion because I am a disciple of Star Palace. But everyone knows about my power now. Chu Yang has taken such an attitude to me. What a realistic person. Although Jian Wushuang sneered, he didn't care. He had been used to it for a long time. Why? What are you doing here? Can't you hear me? Chu Yang glared at Jian Wushuang coldly. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, don't blame me. Chapter 1375, Give a Lesson to Chu Yang. Chapter 1375, Give a Lesson to Chu Yang. In the Star River, Jian Wushuang and Chu Yang stood face to face. Silence spread over the surroundings. Chu Yang. Jian Wushuang raised his head. I'm okay with giving you the meta beast, but I feel uncomfortable with your attitude to me. Who cares? In the lineage of Star, no one respects you. Chu Yang sneered. Jian Wushuang didn't respond but stared at Chu Yang. A flash of light was sent out from his eyes. Bang! The light was the great soul power generated by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang generated it so quickly and silently that it shot out to Chu Yang in just 1 second. What? Chu Yang was surprised. He knew it was a soul attack but he couldn't resist. Bang! Chu Yang felt like billions of thunderstorms had struck him, and his consciousness came to a halt. At this moment, Jian Wushuang continued to beat him with his palms. Bang! The sound of the beats were resounding. Chu Yang was knocked down, causing blood to fly from his mouth. It took him a while to stand stably. After Chu Yang recovered his consciousness, he found that a scarlet, palm-shaped scar was left on the left side of his face. It hurt. Chu Yang was shocked. If you were not a disciple from the lineage of Star and if we were out of the territory of the lineage of Star, I would have killed you. Jian Wushuang said indifferently. Then Jian Wushuang left Chu Yang alone. Chu Yang was speechless and stunned. The scar on his face told him what had just happened. How can this be possible? Why is his consciousness attack so strong? Much stronger than 120 years ago. Jian Wushuang continued to walk through the Star River. I have kept a low profile and stayed focused on cultivation for the past 120 years. No one knows that my power had increased dramatically. Chu Yang believed that I was weak. And now he has learned his lesson. Jian Wushuang laughed. 120 years ago, he had been defeated by 13 disciples. He had indeed been weak at that time. Ordinary disciples found it easy to defeat him. But now things were different. He had made a great breakthrough. He had caught up with ordinary disciples and passed the first level of the Star Tower in a test of his secret skills and swordsmanship. But the most dramatic improvement was in his soul power. The resources in the Reset Palace, as one of the most valuable treasures in the lineage of Star, had indeed helped him a lot. Furthermore, he had used Meta Beast's power to facilitate his soul power. The most important resources came from the Universal Tao Scripture from his master Xian Yi. The Universal Tao Scripture was a high-level guide to improving soul power. Jian Wushuang had gained great benefits from the universal Tao scripture when he was in Tian Yuan Mystery Land. But the Reset Palace was more challenging and therefore more powerful than the universal Tao scripture. Within 120 years, Jian Wushuang's soul power had increased to nearly the level of a peak universe god in the third heaven. He could generate soul power that even an ordinary universe god in the third heaven couldn't resist. That was why Chu Yang had been easily defeated. Chu Yang's consciousness was just barely equal to an ordinary universe god in the third heaven. So he had lost consciousness under Jian Wushuang's attack. In this way, Jian Wushuang could take chances to attack him. Since you have improved your soul power a lot, it is now easier for you to exercise the secret skill of Tian Yuan. King of Venomous Worms said. Yes, I can now use the secret skill of Tian Yuan 5 times in a short time. 120 years ago, he could have only used it once at a time. Continue to improve yourself to the level of a peak universe god in the third heaven so that you can exercise the second level of the secret skill of Tian Yuan rather than the first now. It will be a big advantage in the selection battle for disciples in the Star Palace. King of Venomous Worms said. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled. He went back to the Reset Palace. There he continued to improve his soul power with the help the Meta Beast's power. As for Chu Yang, he didn't mention anything about Jian Wushuang and his scar. It was too shameful for him. So no one else knew Jian Wushuang's power. 6 years soon passed. Jian Wushuang paused his cultivation in the Reset Palace. I have consumed all my Meta Beast's power, but my soul power is still at the level of an advanced universe god in the third heaven. No breakthroughs yet. Maybe I should go to the 4 mystery lands for new inspiration. Jian Wushuang thought. Chapter 1376, 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack. Chapter 1376, 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack. Lineage of Star controlled 4 mystery lands and 9 shrines. The 9 shrines were only chances, whilst the 4 mystery lands were chances accompanied with danger. It was in a huge cave dwelling that was formed with special crystals. Jian Wushuang, you just got to Lineage of Star not long ago and you're not that strong. If you were to go to the 4 mystery lands, wouldn't it be too early? Hall Master Yuan creased his eyebrows as he asked Jian Wushuang. My power has reached a bottleneck as of now. If I continue to cultivate in seclusion in Lineage of Star, there won't be much progress, Jian Wushuang replied. Which mystery land are you planning to go to? Hall Master Yuan asked. Tianling Mystery Land, Jian Wushuang replied. That's not too bad. Hall Master Yuan's tightly knitted eyebrows loosened slightly. The 4 mystery lands that Lineage of Star controlled contained hidden danger. According to the level of danger on the list, Tianling Mystery Land is at the last place. Although it is dangerous, the possibility of you surviving is quite high with your current power. Jian Wushuang, if I'm not mistaken, the reason you opted to go to Tianling Mystery Land is to improve your soul power, right? Yes, Jian Wushuang replied frankly. The 4 mystery lands had different characteristics and dangers. Tianling Mystery Land was best for experts who were good at consciousness and soul attacks. That was also the reason why Jian Wushuang opted for the Mystery Land. When you entered Lineage of Star, your soul power wasn't weak. Now that you have cultivated in Reset Palace for so long, your soul power has definitely improved tremendously. However, the way you use your soul power is too immature, Hall Master Yuan commented. Jian Wushuang nodded in silence. That's true, the way he used his soul power really was too immature. Under normal circumstances, he only knew to add soul attack into his sword principle and perform it together alongside his sword principle. Or, he could use the secret skill of Tian Yuan to perform a soul attack bluntly. However, the secret skill was merely an attack measure and not the fundamental method. Jian Wushuang, if you are not in a hurry, wait for another 2 years in the Lineage of Star. Then, you can depart again after 2 years, Hall Master Yuan smiled and replied. Another 2 years. Why? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. You'll know by then, Hall Master Yuan smiled mysteriously but didn't clarify why. Although Jian Wushuang found it suspicious, he didn't really mind waiting for another 2 years. In the 2 years, he stayed in the Milky Way and constantly caught meta beasts to extract their meta strength. He was going to wander around the mystery land after all. He wouldn't know how long he would be gone for. It'd be good to prepare for meta strength to nourish his soul. 2 years later, Jian Wushuang came to the cave dwelling again. This time, he saw Hall Master Yuan and also Lei Chao. Jian Wushuang, this is for you. Lei Chao waved and threw a token to Jian Wushuang. This is it. Jian Wushuang took it subconsciously but he looked confused. It's a manipulation method of soul power. I spent time and effort to specially get this for you, Lei Chao said. Specially get it for me? Jian Wushuang was shocked. When I told you to wait for 2 years previously, I was asking you to wait for Lei Chao. Hall Master Yuan laughed. You had soul power, but you didn't know the manipulation method of the soul power. Isn't that a waste of your advantage? We at the lineage of Star have a manipulation method of soul power, but it is rather profound. With your current level, it would be extremely difficult for you to enter. So, I sent Lei Chao to get the 5 beast soul manipulation knack for you. This, Jian Wushuang was at loss for words. Why? Are you overwhelmed? Hall Master Yuan smiled and asked. A little, Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Many ordinary disciples in Lineage of Star, including the disciples in Star Palace, relied on their capabilities to fight for resources in Lineage of Star. As for favors bestowed to the experts in Lineage of Star, unless you were a direct descendant of one's disciple, no one would grant the other any treasures or chances. But then, Hall Master Yuan told Lei Chao to spend a few years' time to specially get him the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. Jian Wushuang was of course overwhelmed by such treatment. Actually I did so because I wanted to be fair. Hall Master Yuan looked over. You're a universe god in the first heaven after all. But you have to pretend to be a universe god in the second heaven. You even have to participate in the battle as a universe god in the second heaven. To you, it is really unfair. So, now that I have provided you with this knack, it can be considered compensation. As for the battle that is going to happen in a few hundred years, it'll be depending on you and if you can maintain your identity as a disciple of Star Palace. Oh, I see, Jian Wushuang then understood the situation. I have passed you the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. Bring it back and study it. After you're prepared, head over to Tianling Mystery Land. Besides, whenever disciples of Star Palace wander in the 4 mystery lands, they will be assigned with a task. Same goes to you. The task in Tianling Mystery Land is for you to collect Tianling crystals. Hall Master Yuan continued. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary disciple in Lineage of Star at the level of Universe God in the second heaven has to collect 3 Tianling crystals. And you're a disciple of Star Palace, so the difficulty of the task shall be higher. You have to collect 10 Tianling crystals to be considered to have completed your task. I understand, Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. He had heard that everyone who wandered the 4 mystery lands would be assigned a task, so he was mentally prepared. Go ahead. Hall Master waved his hand and Jian Wushuang left. After Jian Wushuang left, he wasn't in a hurry to get to Tianling Mystery Land but returned to Sword Star. He started studying the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. 5 beast soul manipulation knack developed and evolved soul power into 5 beasts. It then formed a balance to fight fiercely with the opponent. Such an interesting method. Jian Wushuang had merely studied it for a while, but he could see why the method was so amazing. Jian Wushuang, the 5 beast soul manipulation knack is just a fundamental method of how to use soul power. It's not that precious. It is even far from the secret skill of Tian Yuan that you've gotten. However, the secret skill of Tian Yuan is a secret skill. So, it wouldn't be that easy to be carried out. But this fundamental method of using soul power is what you are lacking right now, King of Venomous Worms said. Go ahead and study for a few days on your own. After you master the simple way to use your soul power, head over to Tian Yuan Mystery Land for practical training. Then, you'll be able to familiarize yourself with the method. I know, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He stayed in Sword Star for a month. After a month, when he understood the 5 beast soul manipulation knack to a certain level, he got ready to head over to Tianling Mystery Land. Chapter 1377, Tianling Mystery Land. Chapter 1377, Tianling Mystery Land. Tianling Mystery Land was one of the 4 mystery lands of the lineage of Star, but the wormhole for entering the land was outside the base of the lineage of Star, in a place called Cloud Island. The Cloud Island was the biggest wormhole and it connected to the most places in Star Land. It provided access to all parts of the Purple Moon Sanctuary and other cultivation places. The Cloud Island brought tremendous amounts of profits to the lineage of Star. Thousands of cultivators of different levels gathered there, including real gods and universe gods. Master, how long will you have to wait? We have been here for almost 1 year. A tall man in purple armor asked an elder with brown hair. The elder with brown hair was a real god and the other 5, including the young man, were universe gods. We should wait for longer for other cultivators to join us in the Crystal Land. Now we only have thousands of cultivators and only 3 real gods. But we still can't afford the price for the wormhole to the Crystal Land. We should be patient and wait. The elder sighed. The young man murmured, just a wormhole is so expensive. How greedy the lineage of Star is. Shut up. Do you know what you are talking about? The man also realized his offense. He looked around nervously and was relieved that nobody was paying attention to him. Be careful not to offend the lineage of Star. I can't save you if you get into trouble. By the way, you don't know the cost of opening a wormhole to the Crystal Land. It is extremely expensive. So the disciples all kept silent. Whoosh! At that moment, a figure flashed through the heavens and caught the attention of the brown-haired elder and his disciples. They saw that a man in a black robe had paid the money needed for opening the wormhole. He could pay the fee by himself. How extraordinary! Just then. Whoosh! Almost 100 gods flew to palaces at the top of the Cloud Island. There were 4 real gods. All the rest were universe gods in the 3rd heaven. The 4 real gods are deacons from the lineage of Star. 3 silver deacons and 1 golden deacon. What do they come for? Other cultivators were curious. They saw that a young man wearing blood-red robe and carrying a long sword had moved forward. All universe gods and even the 4 real gods bowed to the young man. Oh my God! Real gods bowed to a universe god in the 2nd heaven. Who is the young man? Maybe he is the disciple in the Star Palace. All the cultivators in the Cloud Island felt shocked. So did the 5 disciples of the brown-haired elder. Why can a universe god in the 2nd heaven like me be respected so much by those prestigious deacons in the lineage of Star? Jian Wushuang didn't care about others' attention and was surprised. He went toward the palaces following the 4 deacons. We will open the wormhole to the Tianling Mystery Land for you. The golden deacon said. Thank you. Those who could train inside the lineage of Star were core members, including disciples and masters. Besides them, there was another group of talents who lived in the margins, including universe gods in the 3rd heaven who guarded the Cloud Island and the 4 deacons. So their status was lower than Jian Wushuang even though they were already real gods. Soon, the wormhole opened. Take the token with you. If you want to leave the Tianling Mystery Land, just smash the token. Okay. Jian Wushuang entered the wormhole. Now in the Tianling Mystery Land. Bang! A space twisted, and Jian Wushuang entered into the Tianling Mystery Land through it. When Jian Wushuang entered into the land, he looked down at the top. What a large forest! The forest was so boundless that Jian Wushuang couldn't detect its border with his soul power. But he felt the breath of organisms there. Both humans and beasts. As far as I know, the lineage of star always allows the Tianling mystery land to follow nature and develop without intervention. There are many talents here. Before I start to cultivate, it's better for me to get familiar with the surroundings. As for the Tianling crystal, I have to be patient and wait for opportunities. Then Jian Wushuang walked down through the boundless forest. He was now in the land as an outsider. Chapter 1378, Soul Master. Chapter 1378, Soul Master. In the ancient forest, the youth in the crimson robe who was carrying a long sword slowly moved forward. It smells of blood. It is quite pungent. It seems that there are always fights in this forest. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Swoosh! A crimson flowing light swept past the forest. Jian Wushuang stopped under a big tree, but his gaze was fixed in front of him. There was a 2-meter-tall figure at the open space before him. This should be the beast in Tianling Mystery Land, right? Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The beast before him was huge in size and it had 3 humongous heads. The eyes were bloodshot red and it looked extremely ferocious. When Jian Wushuang appeared, the 3-headed beast responded. There were 2 bloodshot red eyes fixed on Jian Wushuang. Then, rumble. An extremely savage aura exploded from the beast and it charged towards Jian Wushuang like lightning. Jian Wushuang's eyes contracted but he didn't draw his sword. There was a strong soul power that surged out from his body. Suddenly, his soul power turned into a purple tiger and roared as it leaped forward. Bang! A loud thud and the 3-headed beast groaned in pain. After the huge body plundered for a while, it finally fell on the ground. A purple tiger formed by soul power nearly collapsed from the crash. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. Although he had killed the beast, he obviously wasn't happy with the attack earlier. Jian Wushuang, the usage of soul power requires continuous accumulation and practical training. You will familiarize with the method over time. You just mastered the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. It is inevitable that you will seem a little rusty in using it. It will get better after a few more times, King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang nodded and continued to move forward. In the mid-region of the forest, there happened to be a troop of over 10 people moving forward slowly. We will reach the Fiery Lion King's territory soon. Tread softly so that it won't sense you and escape. The man in the black shirt looked at his troop behind him. Everyone nodded simultaneously and looked extremely solemn. Sissy, the Fiery Lion King is very powerful. Our troop can barely kill it. We can't allocate another person to protect you. Don't expose yourself. Find a place to hide. Until we kill the Fiery Lion King, you can't come out. Understand? The man in black shirt looked at one person and said. The maiden in black that looked innocent nodded continuously, but her eyes were twinkling with excitement. Soon, they arrived at the territory of the Fiery Lion King. It's there. The man in the black shirt looked at the Fiery Lion King with the flaming red body which was more than 3 meters tall and standing under a big tree. His eyes grew bright with the sight. Let's do it. The troop, which was well prepared and had came specifically for the Fiery Lion King, immediately took action without hesitation. Roar! A fight immediately took place. Be careful. Damn it, the Fiery Lion King became even stronger than before. Shit, it's running away. Let's go after it. The troop started a chase with the Fiery Lion King in the forest. Then, the direction where the Fiery Lion King was running towards had a figure in a crimson robe that was moving forward slowly. Huh! Jian Wushuang hauled his footstep. His soul power was spread all the time. He naturally could feel the fiery Lion King that was running towards his direction almost instantly. The fiery Lion King was running towards where he was and it suddenly appeared before him. Roar! Looking at the youth in crimson robe blocking his way, the fiery Lion King let out a raging bellow and charged towards Jian Wushuang. Be careful! Move! The man in black and the people behind him who were chasing after the fiery Lion King immediately shouted. Jian Wushuang didn't move an inch but looked at the fiery Lion King charging towards himself as though he was dumbfounded by the sight. However, perceptive onlookers would see that there was a strange light twinkling his eyes. Viroom! A shapeless force swept out and suddenly covered the body of the fiery Lion King. The fiery Lion King was originally charging towards Jian Wushuang in total madness and at lightning speed. However, the force that swept out led to the diminishment of its terrifying speed and it was soon stopped entirely. Then, its dead body fell to the ground. What? The man in the black shirt and his troop ran over quickly and came beside the fiery Lion King's dead body. Looking at the dead body on the ground, all of them were astonished. The fiery Lion King is an extremely strong second-level beast which could be compared to an ordinary 2-star divine general. The person before us didn't even move and he killed the fiery Lion King? Soul Master. And he's a very terrifying Soul Master. He's at least a peak 2-starred Soul Master. The man in the black shirt fixed his gaze at Jian Wushuang and he quickly bowed politely the very next moment. Xue Feng Troop Captain, Xue Feng. Greetings to the Soul Master. Thank you, Soul Master, for helping us to take care of the fiery Lion King. Soul Master. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. Before he departed, he found some information about Tianling Mystery Land. He also knew that there were 2 kinds of cultivators there. One was a warrior which was commonly seen and the other was the Soul Master that the man in the black shirt mentioned. Soul Masters specialized in studying consciousness and soul. In Tianling Mystery Land, Soul Masters were rarer than warriors and of a much higher class. Whoever was Soul Master, even if he was just a 1-starred Soul Master, which was the lowest ranking, would be respectable. Your troop came specially for the fiery Lion King? Jian Wushuang asked coldly. Yes, the man in black shirt, Xue Feng nodded. Our troop came across the fiery Lion King once. Unfortunately, it happened too suddenly and we weren't prepared so it escaped. It even nearly killed one of us. Hence, our troop intentionally came to take revenge. Oh, I see, Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. The dead body of the fiery Lion King should be quite valuable. Go ahead and take it. You're giving the dead body to us. Xue Feng and the other cultivators in the group were stunned but they quickly understood. The dead body of a fiery Lion King is not unimportant, but to someone who is at least a peak 2-starred Soul Master, it shouldn't be anything, Xue Feng thought to himself. He didn't refuse and took the dead body of the fiery Lion King into his Qian Kun ring directly. Then, the maiden in black that had been following at the back came over. Brother, the maiden in black came before Xue Feng and asked with concern, are you okay? It was nothing. Luckily, this master lent us a hand, Xue Feng smiled and continued, Sissy, quickly come and greet the Soul Master. Chapter 1379, Xue Feng's team got into trouble. Chapter 1379, Xue Feng's team got into trouble. Hello, Soul Master. The girl in black greeted Jian Wushuang with respect. This is my younger sister Xue Tong, also a Soul Master. Now she has the ability to be a level 1 Soul Master, although she hasn't been approved by the Soul Master sect. Xue Feng said by way of introduction. Jian Wushuang looked at the girl and didn't reply. Are you going back into the town, Master? Xue Feng asked. Jian Wushuang nodded. So are we. How about going together? Jian Wushuang couldn't feel any kind of enthusiasm in the eyes of Xue Feng and Xue Tong. Jian Wushuang knew why. They want me to teach Shui Tong soul power skills. Jian Wushuang thought. After all, the number of level 2 peak soul masters was limited in the whole Tianling mystery land. It was a valuable opportunity to learn from them. Okay. Jian Wushuang accepted the invitation. After all, he needed to learn more about the Tianling mystery land from Shui Feng. So they set out. Shui Tong saw any opportunity to ask Jian Wushuang about consciousness control. When she found Jian Wushuang was patient and kind, she felt freer and asked questions more frequently. But Jian Wushuang had mixed feelings. What he could teach Shui Tong was only from 5 beast soul manipulation knack. He knew the theory but didn't know how to exercise. What's more, Shui Yang was, in fact, even better at consciousness control than him. Actually, I should learn from Shui Tong, because soul masters like her learn from childhood. My advantage is just having the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. And in this process, the skills that Shui Tong had shown him had also benefited Jian Wushuang a lot. 5 days passed. Master Wushuang, we will be arriving at the town in 1 day. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had told them his name. But as Shui Feng was talking, something happened. Jian Wushuang felt alarmed. What happened, Brother Wushuang? Shui Tong asked. Some people were approaching us. Jian Wushuang said. Are they also exploring the forest? Not exactly, they are not coming for beasts. And that group of people soon appeared in front of them. They wore black robes and scary black masks, full of aggression. Shui Feng was nervous, they are from the Hungry Wolves clan. Others were also frightened. Hungry Wolves clan? Jian Wushuang was confused. They are a burglar clan killing cultivators. Over the past few hundred years, numerous people have died because of them. Now Shui Feng's group was in great trouble. They were not powerful enough to contain the clan. Sister, leave with Brother Wushuang. I will fight with them and buy you more time. Shui Feng told Shui Tong. Shui Tong felt unwilling to leave Shui Feng alone. As for the clan, among whom there was a man who wore a golden mask, they stood there looking at Shui Feng's group. Have you investigated their levels, Mayer? The man in a golden mask asked. 9 people in total. 3 level 2 divine generals and another 5 are level 1. And the last one is not even a divine general, but it seems that she is a soul master. Her consciousness is not bad. Mayer said. Obviously, the ranking setting in the Tianling mystery land was different from the eternal chaotic world. There were divine soldiers, divine generals and real gods. But the ranking was similar. For example, level 1 divine generals were equal to universe gods in the first heaven. As for soul masters, a level 1 soul master had a consciousness as strong as a universe gods in the first heavens. How weak they are. The man in a golden mask grinned, kill them. So his subordinates started the attack. Seeing this, Shui Feng and other members were scared to death. Leave here. Shui Feng shouted and asked his teammates to leave. He rushed to the clan alone. But he was just a level 2 divine general, much weaker than those level 2 peak divine generals in front of them, let alone the level 3 divine general in the golden mask. Shui Feng had little hope of being able to stop them. Shui Feng is in danger. Jian Wushuang frowned. Then he generated his unimaginable soul power. The power transformed into a scarlet phoenix. The giant phoenix rushed at the clan. Chapter 1380, 3-starred Soul Master. Chapter 1380, 3-starred Soul Master. Screech. A shrill cry was heard across the universe. A crimson phoenix appeared before the Hungry Wolves clan before Shui Feng. Then, the feathers on the crimson phoenix turned into crimson flowing lights and merged into the Hungry Wolves clan members with terrifying speed. A dozen Hungry Wolves clan members paused in the void. Then, fumble. Almost half of them fell forward. What? This is a consciousness attack. It's Soul Master. They have Soul Master among them. The remaining Hungry Wolves clan members screamed, but didn't dare to move forward. The leader of the Hungry Wolves clan, the man in the gold mask, took one step back and looked at the person next to him. May, what's going on? I never expected that there would be 2 Soul Masters in this troop, and there's one Soul Master that I can't even detect. The person in the black robe named May lowered her voice and replied, however, although I can't detect his existence, his consciousness attack wasn't strong. His earlier technique was fierce, but it only killed a level 1 Divine General. He didn't kill just level 2 Divine Generals though. It obviously meant that he wasn't too high of a level 2. He is at most a 2-starred Soul Master and he has just leveled up very recently. 2-starred Soul Master. You take care of him then, the man in gold mask said. No problem, the person in the black robe named May nodded and took a step forward. On the other side, Jian Wushuang, standing among Xue Feng's troop, looked rather cold. I am out of practice. The earlier technique collapsed on the way. Otherwise, there are not many from the Hungry Wolves clan who could have survived the technique earlier, Jian Wushuang thought in his head. His soul strength was near to the level of a peak universe god in the 3rd heaven. If he were to put his full power to play, even a universe god in the 3rd heaven wouldn't be able to resist. Even if it was a group attack, it wasn't something a 2nd-level Divine General could withstand either. However, when the Crimson Phoenix swept out, it only killed those 1st-level 1 Divine Generals. Huh? Jian Wushuang lifted his head. He had already seen the person in the black robe named May walking towards him. I never expected that there would be a 2-starred Soul Master in your little troop. I wonder, what's the 2-starred Soul Master's name? May asked. Jian Wushuang replied straight away. Jian Wushuang. May kept quiet for a while, but she shook her head after that. I know any 2-starred Soul Masters who are slightly famous, but I've never heard of you. It seems that you only just broke through and became a 2-starred Soul Master. How about this? I shall give you a chance to join the Hungry Wolves clan. This way you can save your own life. Jian Wushuang sneered at what she said. If you were to kneel down and bow before me to ask for mercy, I would let you live. You're asking for it. There was a flash of coolness in May's eyes. The very next moment, swoosh. A huge black shadow that was formed by consciousness suddenly charged towards Jian Wushuang. The black shadow was a huge cobra. Not only was the cobra huge in size, but it was also extremely flexible. I'm impressed. This person's manipulation of consciousness is much stronger than Xue Tong, Jian Wushuang complimented in silence, but his eyes suddenly turned cold. Hong. His soul power suddenly erupted. Then, Jian Wushuang had never performed 5 beast soul manipulation knack but straightaway performed a soul constrain vigorously. Soul power that was close to a peak in the 3rd heaven was like a heavy hammer then suddenly slammed down onto the plundering cobra. It shattered the cobra into pieces and continued to move forward at May. How is this possible? There was an unprecedented terror in May's eyes below the black mask. Her eyes were wide open. 3-starred. 3-starred Soul Master. A shrill voice was heard from May and her eyes grew dim. Swoosh. May's figure fell down. The sight shocked everyone on the scene, including the siblings, Xue Feng and Xue Tong. 3-starred Soul Master. Everyone couldn't help but mumble to themselves. In Tianling Land, if a 2-starred Soul Master was rare, a 3-starred Soul Master was even more hard to come by. In the nearby towns, there was definitely less than 5 3-starred Soul Masters. Such big figures would definitely make everyone around the region shiver in fear. Then, there was such existence before them. Damn it! The leader of the Hungry Wolves clan, the man in the gold mask, roared and glared at Jian Wushuang. In Tian Yuan land, soul masters were scary and they were definitely the strongest players within their own level. For instance, a 2-starred soul master would be much stronger compared to a 2nd-level divine general. Then, a 3-starred soul master was naturally much stronger than an ordinary level 3 divine general. Let's go. Although the man in gold mask was upset, he could only leave. Under his command, the rest of the Hungry Wolves clan members let out a breath of relief and retreated. They were really not brave enough to fight against a 3-starred soul master. However, just as the man in gold mask turned to leave. You come as you wish and leave as you wish. Aren't you living a little too comfortably? Jian Wushuang's cold voice rang out. Then, the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hands. Wah! Jian Wushuang moved and suddenly charged forward. Such speed! Xue Feng, Xue Tong, and the people in their troop were terrified by the speed Jian Wushuang revealed. Such a speed was obviously faster than any of theirs. The man in the gold mask saw that Jian Wushuang moved forward directly. He wasn't angry, but actually happy instead. Son, you're just a soul master and you dared to fight in close combat with me? The man in the gold mask had a murderous intention that was flaring up. 3-starred soul master was scary indeed. However, such terror only existed when there was a certain distance between him and the opponent. Then, he could opt to fight with soul power. But then, Jian Wushuang charged towards him to fight in close combat recklessly. Wasn't he asking for death? On the Tianling Mystery Land, which soul master dared to fight close combat with a warrior? Die! The man in the gold mask immediately took out a huge axe and wielded it with strong strength. Jian Wushuang too erupted his power to its limit and performed a unique skill. Ghosting. Boundless swordlights swept out and overlapped at a terrifying speed. It was as though thousands of millions of swordlights had gathered in the same spot. The power of swordlight then exploded. Dang! After a loud collision, a terrifying power swept through the surroundings. After another loud clash, the man in the gold mask staggered and fell backwards. Chapter 1381, Hatred. Chapter 1381, Hatred. How can be it possible? The man in the golden mask was shocked. So were other members in the Hungry Wolves clan and Xue Feng's group. Jian Wushuang not only was a level 3 soul master with formidable power, but had other formidable skills. He had defeated a 3-level divine general. Seriously? No one could believe their eyes. Even Jian Wushuang was surprised to see that he was powerful enough to blast the man out with only one sword. But he soon realized why. Soul Masters were more powerful than Divine General of the same level, not because Soul Masters were geniuses, but because Divine Generals were relatively weak in the whole Tianling Mystery Land. Jian Wushuang knew that at the beginning of the battle. Although the man was a level 3 Divine General, equivalent to a universe god in the third heaven of the eternal chaotic world, but he was absolutely not as powerful as he was supposed to be. Jian Wushuang grinned. I think his divine power was no more than the level of a peak universe god in the second heaven. I guess he doesn't even know what secret skills are. Go! The gold-masked man chose to escape. But Jian Wushuang didn't give him any opportunity. He waved his sword as fast as a flash, using soul attack that the man couldn't resist at all. The sword stabbed through the man's throat. The man died. Seeing this, his members were scared to death and ran away as fast as they could. Jian Wushuang didn't follow them. Everything became peaceful again. Xue Feng and Xue Feng went to Jian Wushuang with fear. Thank you, Master Wushuang. Xue Feng showed his respect. Other members except Xue Feng didn't even dare to look at him. Jian Wushuang was so formidable for them. Are you okay? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Without your help, we couldn't escape from death. Xue Feng said gratefully, all the cultivators will respect and admire you if they know you have killed a vicious gang for us. It's just a little help, worth nothing. Jian Wushuang said, let's set out again. Okay. Soon they went on with the journey. But on the journey, everyone was silent, continuously recalling what had happened. When they left the forest, Shui Tong, after a long time of consideration, said to Jian Wushuang, could I be your disciple? I can serve you for my life. Jian Wushuang felt surprised. Shui Feng also said sincerely, my sister is gifted in consciousness and she works hard. We will be grateful if you could accept her. After all, few talents were as powerful as Jian Wushuang. And Shui Feng and Shui Tong didn't want to miss the chance. Jian Wushuang showed his hesitation. Shui Tong looked at Jian Wushuang with great eagerness. But Jian Wushuang said, sorry, I can't. He had to refuse. First, he would leave the Tianling mystery land soon. Second, and more importantly, he was not qualified to teach her. His control on consciousness was actually not as good as Shui Tong. So he had no other choices. Shui Tong felt disappointed. So was Shui Feng. But he continued to say, could you please introduce another soul master to us? Jian Wushuang became unhappy about Shui Feng's requirement. Even Shui Tong was annoyed by her brother. He shouldn't ask for that much. After all, Jian Wushuang had saved them, but it was not his responsibility. Sorry. Shui Feng realized he was imprudent. Why do you want to find a master for you sister so urgently? Jian Wushuang asked. Shui Feng paused for a while and said, to be honest, it is because we have to take revenge for our parents, our family members, and all others in our tribe, who were killed by our enemies. However, I lost the opportunity to cultivate to be a talent. So all the hopes fall on my sister. She is gifted in consciousness. If she can learn from a talent and be an excellent soul master, we could take revenge. Shui Feng clenched his hands. Jian Wushuang also saw the hatred in their eyes. The scene resonated Jian Wushuang. Since he had started to journey of cultivation, he also had been bearing such a hatred. Just like Shui Feng and Shui Tong. It was the hatred that led him to make such great progress. Chapter 1382, Soul Master Hall. Chapter 1382, Soul Master Hall. I will not take any disciples. However, if I come across any suitable soul master, I shall recommend him to you. Jian Wushuang said casually. Thank you, Master. Shui Feng and Shui Tong expressed their gratitude. Oh yeah, in the town on the border of the forest, is there a soul master hall? Jian Wushuang asked. After familiarizing himself with Shui Feng's troop in the past few days, Jian Wushuang found out that the place with the most soul masters gathering together was the Soul Master Hall. In Tianling land, many soul masters were required to get recognition from Soul Master Hall or to pass through the examination. Jian Wushuang wanted to familiarize himself with 5 beast soul manipulation knack, and he had to communicate more with other soul masters. Visiting the Soul Master Hall would be the best choice. In the nearby town, the only Soul Master Hall is in White Sun Town. If you want to head there, we can bring you over. It happens to be time for my sister to sit for a test in Soul Master Hall to become a real 1-starred Soul Master, Shui Feng said. Let's go together then, Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Shui Feng's troop continued their journey together. After they exited the forest, it only took 1 day's time to arrive at White Sun Town. As the only town that had Soul Master Hall in the nearby towns, White Sun Town was rather busy. A lofty black castle was where the Soul Master Hall was located. Master Wushuang, that's Soul Master Hall. You can enter with my sister. We shall wait outside, Shui Feng said. Jian Wushuang nodded. Then, he entered the black castle with Shui Tong. In the lobby of the castle, it was rather crowded. There were many soul masters that gathered together and chatting among themselves. At the same time, there were people queuing up in the middle of the lobby. These people came to become soul masters. Jian Wushuang looked at people in the long queue and he smiled. Master Wushuang, let's go and queue. Shuatong obviously couldn't wait. Jian Wushuang and Shuatong started waiting in the queue. Soon, it was their turn. You go ahead first, Jian Wushuang said. Shuatong nodded and went forward. In one breath, fill up the crystal with your consciousness. Then, you can consider yourself to have passed through fundamental recognition. Then, you will be qualified to join the one-starred soul master examination. The man in the black robe passed a purple crystal to Shuatong. Shuatong took a deep breath and covered the crystal with her consciousness in the next instance. In a while, the purple crystal was shimmering with purple brilliance. Not bad. The man in the black robe took out a token and passed it to Shuatong. Take this token and wait by the side. There'll be someone to bring you to the examination later. Thanks, Shuatong took the token and thanked him. She then walked to the side and waited. Next, the man in the black robe said lazily. Jian Wushuang walked forward. Same goes to you. Fill this crystal in one breath, the man in the black robe said coldly. Jian Wushuang took over the purple crystal and fiddled with it in his hands. He then put it down and said with a smile, your crystal can only recognize one-starred soul masters, right? The man in the black robe was stunned and recalled her sloppy attitude earlier. He revealed a smile and asked, unless you want to receive recognition of being a two-starred soul master? Two-starred soul master? Jian Wushuang smiled, no, I want to receive recognition of a three-starred soul master. Three-starred? The man in black robe stared. Everyone in the lobby looked at Jian Wushuang. Three-starred soul master was almost non-existent in the nearby towns of White Sun Town. Master, you want to receive recognition as a three-starred soul master? The man in the black robe's voice was shivering. Why, can't I? Jian Wushuang smiled and said. No, but, the man in black robe was stuttering. Just then. What's going on? An old voice suddenly rang out and an elderly with white hair and a beard who looked like he had a divine demeanor walked forward slowly. Master He. Soul Master He. He was the only peak two-starred soul master in White Sun Town. The moment he arrived in the lobby, everyone looked surprised and they looked like they revered him. Soul Master He. Shuatong was shocked too. There was passion burning in her eyes. Before she met Jian Wushuang, the only soul master that she had heard of and talked about was Soul Master He. The elderly with white hair and beard walked to the middle of the lobby. The man in the black robe immediately bowed and said, Soul Master He, this is the man who wanted to receive recognition for being a three-starred soul master. Three-starred? The elderly with white hair and beard suddenly contracted his pupils. Three-starred soul master was a level that he himself had yet to reach. Greetings from He Chang. I wonder what your name might be. Soul master acted rather humbly. Jian Wushuang said lightly. Soul master He was stunned and realized that he had never before heard Jian Wushuang's name. My friend, three-starred soul master is an extremely high existence on Tianling land. In White Sun Town, there was never anyone who possessed the power to receive recognition for three-starred soul master. However, I can get in touch with the headquarters of Soul Master Hall for them to send someone over. But, before I sent a message, I must know if you possess the qualification to sit for the three-starred soul master examination, Soul Master He said. This will do, Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. Then, please reveal your consciousness, Soul Master He said. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and activated his consciousness. Boundless soul power surged and formed into a purple tiger instantly, then charged out. Huh? Soul Master creased his eyebrows and there was suddenly a buzz before him. A long spear that was formed by consciousness appeared from nowhere. Hong! A long spear hit the purple tiger directly. The two were stunned for a second before they collapsed one after another. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and erupted a terrifying soul constraint the very next moment. Rumble. The soul power covered Soul Master He like a thunderbolt. Soul Master He was like a lone boat in a storm and he started shaking. Everyone in the lobby could feel the terrifying soul constraint from Jian Wushuang and they revealed faces of terror. Humph. After emitting a low humph, Soul Master He grew pale. Jian Wushuang then reined in his soul constraint and everything resumed tranquility. Such strong consciousness. Soul Master He let out a breath of relief and turned to look at Jian Wushuang. Your consciousness is really fierce and much stronger than any ordinary 3-starred Soul Master. But, if I'm not mistaken, your usage of consciousness was rather inexperienced. Chapter 1383, Guest. Chapter 1383, Guest. Soul Master He was the most famous Soul Master in White Sun Town, having a lot of experience. When he battled with Jian Wushuang, he felt that Jian Wushuang was not familiar with consciousness control. And Jian Wushuang also admitted, I have always stayed in the mountains to cultivate by myself and seldom battled with others. So I am not quite proficient. Master He smiled, now I get it. You have already reached a level 3 Soul Master in terms of your consciousness strength, but to be honest, there is still a way to go to pass the test. Is it about the controlling technique of consciousness? Jian Wushuang asked. Master nodded, as far as I know, a qualified level 3 Soul Master not only needs powerful enough consciousness strength, but also proficient techniques to use. I think you can try not until you further improve them. Jian Wushuang understood. Others in the hall felt sorry for Jian Wushuang. He just lost his chance because of his lack of proficiency. What a shame. Proficiency is only about practicing. But he does have the potential. People were discussing. Master He looked at Jian Wushuang, now I have a suggestion. Tell me about it. Controlling consciousness proficiently needs practicing. In our Soul Master Temple, there are many excellent level 2 Soul Masters. So, if you like, you can stay here as our guest and communicate or battle with Soul Masters. After you improve your skills by practicing, I will ask judges from the headquarters to give you a test, okay? Master He said. Jian Wushuang nodded. Actually, he didn't care about the title, but the opportunity to practice. Though the Soul Master were not of level 3, they were good enough for Jian Wushuang to practice with. Okay, so from now on you are our guest, with the same status with me. Jian Wushuang accepted delightedly. By the way, I have brought a gifted girl with me. Could you please arrange someone to guide her? Jian Wushuang pointed at Xue Tong. Xue Tong's eyes were full of appreciation. Master He looked at Xue Tong and accepted the request, if she is talented enough, we will give her enough chances to unleash her potential. Thank you. Jian Wushuang smiled. Xue Tong appreciated him a lot. Then Jian Wushuang stayed in the Soul Master Temple in the White Sun Town. Though masters there had even weaker soul strength than Jian Wushuang, they definitely outperformed him in terms of controlling consciousness. They are indeed excellent in understanding and controlling consciousness. Jian Wushuang exclaimed, on the contrary, divine generals here are just mediocre. Actually, Tianling Mystery Land was quite different from the eternal chaotic world. As was the cultivation mechanism. The most important difference was that there were no god tests in Tianling Mystery Land. So divine generals here solely made a breakthrough by cultivating and by accumulating experience. Without the challenge of the god test, the divine generals here were far weaker than their equivalent in the eternal chaotic world. I have the 5 beast soul manipulation knack than few soul masters have here. What I need is the practice to unleash the potential power of the manipulation knack. That means I need to have battles with others. So soul masters here are good resources for me. So Jian Wushuang started to invite soul masters there with a challenge battle. In this way, he continued to improve the control skills of the manipulation knack. 30 years passed soon. In the Soul Master Temple, two soul masters were talking. Have you heard that Jian Wushuang defeated Soul Master Luo Xian yesterday? Of course, they both used the soul power strength of a normal level 2 soul master, but Jian Wushuang obviously did a better job in using the skills. But 30 years ago, how to control consciousness was new to Jian Wushuang. He has made such a great breakthrough in a short span of time. Actually, Luo Xian is still more proficient in controlling consciousness. But Jian Wushuang uses the skills in a more clever way, better than Luo Xian's spirit-driven skill. Indeed. Everyone was talking about Jian Wushuang's battle with Luo Xian. In an independent secret room of the Soul Master Temple, Jian Wushuang was generating his soul power. He drove the power with his consciousness, transforming the soul power into a bird, a rabbit, and then a ferocious beast. Everything transformed was as if real. Transforming soul into animals. Now I know how to use the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. Chapter 1384, Examination. Chapter 1384, Examination. The 5-beast soul manipulation knack was the manipulation method of soul power. The method was segregated into 4 levels: beginner, initial success, great achievement, completely satisfactory. After Jian Wushuang obtained the method, he simply made the method known and came to wander around Tianling Mystery Land. At first, he was really unfamiliar with the method and he couldn't put the power of the method to full play. It would even weaken his soul attack when he performed the method. So, he might as well not put the method to play. However, in the 30 years that he stayed in the Soul Master Hall in White Sun Town, he had been fighting with the other Soul Masters and learned from one another. From continuous practice of the method, he had mastered the method better and better. At that point, he was finally at the beginner stage of the method. Although he was just a beginner, his soul attack had improved tremendously, especially regarding his method of attack. Previously, it was monotonous and it was purely killing off souls. Now, there were many ways of soul attack. The current me, merely relying on soul power, should be able to fight face-to-face with an advanced universe god in the 3rd heaven, and the possibility of winning is not low. I am just a beginner. If I were to train myself to the great achievement stage, I must continue to familiarize myself with the method and improve myself to the great achievement stage before the battle to fight for my position as a disciple of Star Palace. Jian Wushuang held his fists tight. My friend, Wushuang. The voice came in from outside the secret room. Jian Wushuang changed his expression and he immediately appeared outside the secret room. Soul Master He, Jian Wushuang revealed a smile and looked at Soul Master He before him. My friend, the people from the headquarters of Soul Master Hall has arrived, Soul Master He said. Oh. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. A month earlier, Soul Master He noticed Jian Wushuang's improvement in the method of using consciousness. He was barely reaching the requirement of a 3-starred Soul Master. Hence, Soul Master He sent a message to the headquarters of Soul Master Hall and told them to send an expert over for Jian Wushuang to sit for the examination for recognition as 3-starred Soul Master. Under the guidance of Soul Master He, Jian Wushuang came to the lobby of Soul Master Hall. In the middle of the lobby, there were 2 figures. The 2 of them looked rather cold and the surrounding Soul Masters looked at them occasionally with faces of terror. 3-starred Soul Master. Jian Wushuang contracted his pupils. He already saw that the 2 of them were wearing robes with armbands that represented their identity as 3-starred Soul Masters. My friend, Wushuang, let me introduce you. These 2 are Master Feng Tao and Master Hua Yi from the headquarters, Soul Master He said. Greetings, Jian Wushuang bowed politely. You are Jian Wushuang. Feng Tao and Hua Yi looked at Jian Wushuang. As for Soul Master He, they totally ignored him. Let's save the courtesy and go straight for the examination, the man in a flame-red robe, Feng Tao said. Sure, Jian Wushuang nodded. Feng Tao waved and took out a transparent crystal. This is a crystal especially for examining the consciousness strength of a 3-starred soul master. You give it a try. Feng Tao passed the crystal to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it over. Then, he surged tremendous soul power into the crystal without hesitation. Along with the surge of soul power, the transparent crystal immediately gave out a brilliant dark purple light. Dark purple. Feng Tao and Hui Yi were both surprised. Under a normal situation, as long as one could let the crystal give out purple light meant that he reached the level of consciousness strength of a 3-starred soul master. As for dark purple, it should be a peak 3-starred soul master's level. Peak 3-starred soul master. Feng Tao and Hui Yi looked at Jian Wushuang with a different gaze. After all, although they were 3-starred soul masters, they were merely beginner level. They were far from a peak 3-starred soul master. Jian Wushuang was surprised himself. After all, his consciousness strength was actually only like an advanced 3-starred that was very close to peak level but yet to reach peak 3-starred. The reason why the crystal gave out dark purple brilliance was that Jian Wushuang's consciousness had already transformed into soul power. There shouldn't be any problem, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course there's no problem, Feng Tao and Hui Yi immediately responded. Feng Tao replied humbly, your consciousness strength has reached the level of a peak 3-starred soul master. Theoretically, you could become a 3-starred soul master directly. However, according to the rules, you are required to show your manipulation method. How should I show it? Jian Wushuang asked. Very simple. Both of us will use a normal 3-starred soul master's consciousness strength to fight against each other. Then, Hui Yi and I will judge if you can become a 3-starred soul master, Feng Tao explained. That's simple. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. Let's start then. Let us go somewhere spacious, Feng Tao said. They immediately moved to the outside of Soul Master Hall, which was a boundless training field. Be careful. Feng Tao warned, then he spread his fierce consciousness the very next moment. Virum. A humongous object that was formed by consciousness suddenly appeared in the universe. It was a green giant that was more than 10 meters tall. He was holding a mace in his hand. With mere consciousness, he formed such a huge green giant. A 3-starred soul master is different after all, Jian Wushuang complimented. Bang! The green giant stomped his foot and the ground cracked and shattered while his figure turned into a huge green shadow and appeared before Jian Wushuang. Wow! There was a surge of green light. The mace in the green giant's hand descended with a strong force. Looking at the mace slamming down, Jian Wushuang didn't move an inch but there was boundless soul power that surrounded him. Moo! An ancient and deep bellow reverberated. The soul power surrounding Jian Wushuang soared up and formed a huge black tortoise. The black tortoise wrapped around Jian Wushuang and the extremely solid shell blocked the mace. Bang! A loud bang formed a terrifying breeze and swept over the area. The cultivators who were near to the battleground were swept by the strong breeze. The terrifying power was far stronger than the 2 3-star divine generals' close combat. Although soul masters majored in consciousness, the items that derived from consciousness could explode in close combat with warriors and were similarly fierce. For instance, the green giant that was transformed from Feng Tao's consciousness, the wielded mace could be compared favorably with an advanced universe god in the third heaven. After a heavy collision, the green giant let out a loud groan and he started waving the mace in his hand. Bang! 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 Every one of the continuous hits were heavy and forceful. The power hit the black tortoise shell and the shell grew much dimmer but had yet to shatter. Chapter 1385, Soul Island. Chapter 1385, Soul Island. My black tortoise's defense capability is strong and resilient. Jian Wushuang smiled. No matter how violent the attack was, Jian Wushuang's black tortoise stood still. Even when the tortoise was attacked and its halo became dimmer, it would soon recover with the flow of Jian Wushuang's soul power. Good defense. But Feng Tao continued to say, if you only keep defending without attacking, you can't pass the exam. Jian Wushuang smiled, okay, I will. He soon shouted, demonic dragon. Boom. Right then, a giant, ferocious dragon rushed into the battlefield as fast as a flash, roaring resoundingly as if it would shake the sky. Then it rushed to the green giant, caught him and bit its green throat. The green giant screeched and shivered. No matter how hard he tried, he failed to escape from the mouth of the demonic dragon. The demonic dragon was the craziest beast in the 5 beast soul manipulation knacks. The 5 beast soul manipulation knack was used to transform the great soul power into 5 exotic beasts. They were demonic dragon, purple tiger, crimson phoenix, black tortoise and divine ape. They were distinct from each other, and the demonic dragon was the most ferocious. Black tortoise was good at defense. At that moment, the green giant's neck was cut by the demonic dragon, so its head dissipated into nothing in the heaven. Seeing this, Feng Tao was shocked and his consciousness power exploded. Bang! 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 Another 3 green giants appeared in the battlefield, even bigger than the previous one. But Jian Wushuang wasn't nervous. You have 3 green giants, but I have 3 demonic dragons. Boom! He generated his power to transform into another 2 murderous dark-colored demonic dragons. Now it was 3 demonic dragons versus 3 green giants. They continued the fierce battle. At last, all the 3 giants dissipated and only 1 demonic dragon was there. A very close competition. Feng Tao was exhausted and injured. He looked at Jian Wushuang and expressed his admiration, excellent. Thank you. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had defeated Feng Tao. With the same consciousness strength as Feng Tao, Jian Wushuang had defeated him with the powerful 5 beast soul manipulation knack. Feng Tao asked Hui, who was at the margin of the battlefield, have you recorded the battle? Yes, the whole process is recorded. Good. We have done our jobs. Feng Tao smiled to Jian Wushuang, we will take the recording back to the headquarters and submit it to our leaders. We will inform you of the result. What a long procedure, Jian Wushuang frowned. Or you can go together with us to save time. Feng Tao said, resources there are far better than here. Jian Wushuang felt excited. Now he still needed to improve his skills to control the 5 beast soul manipulation knack. But the limited number of soul masters in the White Sun Town couldn't satisfy his need to practice. In the headquarters of the Soul Power Temple, things would be different. There would be top tribes and talents who Jian Wushuang could learn from. Why not? Jian Wushuang admitted. When? Feng Tao asked. Right now. He only had to inform Soul Master He and leave a message to Xue Feng and Xue Tong. After finishing all of it, Jian Wushuang headed to the headquarters of the Soul Power Temple. The headquarters of the Soul Power Temple was called the Soul Island. It was a large island with many talents. In the Soul Island, there were also those as prestigious as real gods in the Tianling Mystery Land. Though they were not as powerful as real gods in the lineage of Star. No Almighty had existed in the whole of Tianling Mystery Land. Jian Wushuang, here are our headquarters. Feng Tao and Hui took Jian Wushuang to the Soul Island. As soon as he arrived, Jian Wushuang soon felt a strong force. Consciousness attack. But soon, he realized that the consciousness attack was too weak, meaning it was nothing compared with even the Tian Yuan Mystery Land in the Snow Kingdom, let alone the Reset Palace. Moreover, Jian Wushuang could also feel the powerful breath from many talents. Feng Tao said, the Soul Island was founded by the creator of our Soul Master Temple, real god Demonic Rain, who is also acknowledged as the most powerful master in the Tianling Mystery Land. The secret skill 18 Azura Hell that he created is still the most consciousness attack secret skill. Real God Demonic Rain. 18 Azura Hell. Jian Wushuang had no idea. It is also said that he has been to the world out of the Tianling Mystery Land. Feng Tao said. Jian Wushuang was surprised. So, real God Demonic Rain had traveled in the eternal chaotic world? Chapter 1386, Peak 3-Starred Soul Master. Chapter 1386, Peak 3-Starred Soul Master. Jian Wushuang, I will send your examination result to the higher-ups. Wait for a while here, Feng Tao said. Alright, Jian Wushuang nodded. Feng Tao and Hui Yi walked towards the huge, palatial buildings in the depth of Soul Island while Jian Wushuang stood there waiting. In the lofty palace, there were 3 figures seated on 3 thrones. The 3 figures had a thick aura and they were obviously experts at the real god level. Right in the middle of the palace, there was a mirror and it was, of course, showing the process of Jian Wushuang sitting for the examination. Dark purple brilliance. His consciousness strength has reached a peak 3-starred. There's no doubt about it. Black tortoise. The defense power of the black tortoise is terrifying. The demonic dragon too. This is crazy. Even Feng Tao's green giant was defeated so easily. His usage of consciousness is not too shabby. Only a short while passed before the 3 real gods made a decision. Go ahead and pass him this armband. From today onwards, he is one of the members of Soul Master Hall. One of the real god threw an armband to Feng Tao. Feng Tao took it and there was a flash of strange look. Then, Feng Tao and Hui Yi immediately left. Jian Wushuang, congratulations. Feng Tao and Hui Yi appeared before Jian Wushuang again. Then, Feng Tao passed the armband to Jian Wushuang. This is Peak 3-Starred Soul Master. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Your consciousness strength has reached the level of a peak 3-starred. Of course, you'll be a peak 3-starred soul master. Feng Tao smiled and revealed an envious expression. Although there were many soul masters on Soul Island, there aren't many who have reached the level peak 3-starred. Jian Wushuang kept quiet but he didn't really care. Oh yeah, is it common for soul masters to fight against each other to learn from one another on Soul Island? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course, and it is rather common, Feng Tao smiled. Why? You want to fight against someone? I have been practicing in the mountains to improve my consciousness strength but I have never once fought against someone. Now that I have the chance, of course, I'd like to learn from the other soul masters. Jian Wushuang smiled and replied. That is simple. There's a designated battleground on Soul Island. There are many soul masters that fight against each other there. Let me take you there. Feng Tao immediately brought Jian Wushuang to the battleground. Soul Island, in a lofty palace. Bang! The door of a secret room suddenly opened and a vicious youth who was naked from the waist up and barefooted walked out of the secret room slowly. There were servants who waited outside the secret room moved forward to help the vicious youth with his robe. The seclusion this time took 1,800 years. It's been so long, the vicious youth smiled maliciously. However, although the time taken was longer, I finally performed that technique. If mother were to know, she should be very happy. Master, you're dressed, the servant next to her spoke softly. The vicious youth looked at his robe and then walked out from his palace. I have not stretched for 1,800 years. Let's go take a look at the battleground first. The vicious youth walked towards the battleground in Soul Island directly. Soon, the vicious youth arrived at the battleground. He had just appeared and there were many soul masters that noticed him in the battleground. Mr. Bei Xiu. Greetings, Mr. Bei Xiu. Many soul masters, including some 3-starred soul masters, bowed humbly at the vicious youth. Even the 2 real gods nearby looked at the vicious youth with good intentions. The vicious youth, Bei Xiu, had become the focus of the place quietly. However, he only glanced at everyone around him casually and came to sit down in an inconspicuous place. His gaze was fixed on the battleground below. On the battleground, there were 4 of them fighting. It was 3 versus 1. Oh. Black Tortoise. Bei Xiu looked towards the youth in the crimson robe who was covered by the huge black tortoise. The youth in the crimson robe was wearing an armband of a peak 3-starred soul master and his aura was fierce. The people around him were 3 beginner 3-starred soul masters. At that very moment, the 3 of them were hemming him in with their all. They performed all kinds of consciousness attacks, such as a huge saber derived from consciousness, a huge cobra and also a single-eyed giant. The black tortoise around the youth in the crimson robe didn't move an inch but let the consciousness attack hit him. He wasn't affected at all. Not too shabby, Bei Xiu looked at the sight before him. Master Bei Xiu, this person is called Jian Wushuang. He just arrived at Soul Island yesterday. The moment he arrived, he chose to come to the battleground to fight. For days, he continuously fought 10 over battles. He wasn't defeated even once yet. Not long ago, even Master Jinong fought against him personally, but he didn't defeat him, a purple-dressed elderly who was next to Bei Xiu said. Jinong took action but he didn't defeat him. Bei Xiu raised his eyebrows. Jinong was a peak 3-starred soul master who was powerful. His power was about his level. Mainly because this boy's defense power was extremely strong. The black tortoise that he formed using his consciousness was unassailable. Although Master Jinong is much stronger than him in terms of attack, it was very difficult for him to break the black tortoise's defense. Then, the battle was left unsettled, the purple-dressed elderly said. It turned out that he relied on the shell. Bei Xiu then loosened his tightly knitted eyebrows. At that very moment, Jian Wushuang stopped defending and took action directly in the battleground below. Crane cry. A huge crimson phoenix flapped its wing and swept out. A terrifying aura formed a blast that spread across. Crimson Phoenix. Bei Xiu lifted his eyebrows but remained unconcerned. However, after the Crimson Phoenix, there was another roar. Jian Wushuang used his soul power and transformed them into a few purple tigers. Purple tigers? Bei Xiu squinted his eyes. If it was merely Black Tortoise and Crimson Phoenix, he wouldn't care. But then, the appearance of Purple Tiger shocked him. Then, it was followed by roar. There were 3 demonic dragons with murderous intentions that appeared on the battleground. Demonic dragon. The vicious youth, Bei Xiu, who was watching by the side of the battleground, suddenly stood up and he looked extremely surprised. Black Tortoise, Crimson Phoenix, Purple Tiger, Demonic Dragon. There's one left. The last one left. The very last one should be Divine Ape. There was an unprecedented brightness in Bei Xiu's eyes. He fixed his gaze on Jian Wushuang on the battleground. He was looking forward to Jian Wushuang performing Divine Ape. It was a pity that even though the battle was extremely ferocious, he would never see Jian Wushuang perform Divine Ape. Unless it was because he wasn't powerful enough that he couldn't perform Divine Ape? That must be it. Black Tortoise, Crimson Phoenix, Purple Tiger, Demonic Dragon. The 4 beasts are out and the method is rather similar. Even if it were to be a coincidence, it shouldn't be that similar. 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack. Mother talked about it before. She once saw the 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack in the Boundless Universe. Chapter 1387, Bei Xiu. Chapter 1387, Bei Xiu. Why can he use 5 Beast Soul Manipulation Knack? Bei Xiu was curious. Few talents here knows this knack. I want to meet this guy. Bei Xiu told his subordinate. Okay. I will arrange it. His subordinate in a purple robe said. On the battlefield, Jian Wushuang's battle with 3 level 3 soul masters had also came to the last phase. No matter how hard the 3 soul masters tried, they couldn't penetrate the black tortoise that Jian Wushuang wore. Instead, they got beaten severely by his demonic dragon. Jian Wushuang won. After the battle, Jian Wushuang chose to have a rest and recover his soul power. After over 10 battles, my soul power has been almost exhausted. Jian Wushuang thought. At that moment, the elder in a purple robe came to him. Master Jian Wushuang. As he was only a primary level 3 soul master and Jian Wushuang was a peak 1, he should indeed called Wushuang master to show respect. You are? Jian Wushuang asked. I was asked by Master Bei Xiu to come here to invite you. He wants to meet you. Master Bei Xiu. He is at the top among all level 3 soul masters, only second to real gods. Even real gods have to respect him for his extraordinary background. Hua Yi said. Yes, but he is sometimes too proud. Feng Tao seemed to dislike Bei Xiu. Whatever. I will go. Jian Wushuang smiled. Please follow me. The elder in a purple robe said. Soon they arrived at a brilliant palace. It was a golden palace, in which there were 2 luxurious tables. In front of a table sat a young man. At the center of the palaces, many beautiful ladies were dancing. Master Bei Xiu, this is Master Jian Wushuang. The elder in a purple robe told the young man. Then Bei Xiu welcomed Jian Wushuang smilingly, Brother Jian Wushuang. Hello. Just call me Bei Xiu. Brother Bei Xiu. Jian Wushuang said. Have a seat please. The Jian Wushuang sat in front of the other table face to face with Bei Xiu. I have watched your battle with other soul masters. I admire your powers so much. Could I be friends with you? Bei Xiu lifted a cup of wine. Jian Wushuang had to accept such generosity. They drank several cups of wine. Then Bei Xiu asked all the subordinates and dancers to leave. Only he and Jian Wushuang were in the palace now. Jian Wushuang continued to drink and said nothing. He knew clearly that Bei Xiu's intention was more than making friends with him. Brother Wushuang. Bei Xiu started to say, I saw that in the battle you used a very powerful consciousness attack. I have a hobby of collecting those powerful tricks. Could you please show me that skill? Jian Wushuang was surprised. He didn't expect that Bei Xiu coveted his 5-beast soul manipulation knack. 5-beast soul manipulation knack was indeed extraordinary. Brother Bei Xiu, to be honest, my knack looks powerful but actually, its level is just mediocre. And what's more, I learned the knack from my master, who told me not to teach anyone, including my own son. So I think I have to refuse you. Jian Wushuang said. Don't hurry to refuse. Bei Xiu smiled and took out a token, telling Jian Wushuang, I have a reward for you. This token is the well-known Feng Ling knack, one of the top 5 consciousness knacks in the Tian Ling Mystery Land. I think it's powerful enough for an exchange. Jian Wushuang took a glance without any interest. Being famous in the Tian Ling Mystery Land meant nothing to Jian Wushuang. Feng Lin knack was only for controlling consciousness. But 5-beast soul manipulation knack was for controlling the soul, surpassing hundreds of Feng Lin knacks combined. Jian Wushuang would accept only if he was foolish. When Jian Wushuang showed no interest, Bei Xiu took out another treasure. It was an ancient bronze mirror, looking shabby but actually having extraordinary power. It's a high-level treasure for consciousness attack. Generally, it can double the power of users. I don't think you have one. That's true. Do you want to exchange these 2 things with me? You can be at the top of all level 3 soul masters with them. But Jian Wushuang remained indifferent. Thank you for your generosity. But I have to follow my teacher who taught me the knack. Jian Wushuang said indifferently. Chapter 1388, Hui Yi's Request. Chapter 1388, Hui Yi's Request. Bei Xiu's pupil contracted when Jian Wushuang rejected him once again. After a short silence, Bei Xiu spoke again. Wushuang, if I'm not mistaken, your consciousness attack technique originated extraordinarily, right? As I've said, the consciousness attack technique was passed down by my master. I wonder what you mean when you say that. Jian Wushuang lowered his voice. Shouldn't this technique be from out of Tianling land? Bei Xiu fixed his gaze on Jian Wushuang. Outside of Tianling land? Jian Wushuang looked surprised. There's another land or world outside of this Tianling land? Bei Xiu creased his eyebrows when he saw Jian Wushuang's expression. This boy really doesn't know, or is he pretending? Bei Xiu wasn't sure himself. Bei Xiu, it's impossible for me to teach you the consciousness attack technique. If there's nothing else, I shall leave. Jian Wushuang didn't bother with Bei Xiu's response but walked outside the palace. Watching Jian Wushuang left the palace, Bei Xiu's face grew grave. He rejected him even when I traded with my Feng Ling knack and bronze mirror? Humph, so what if you rejected me? You think you don't trade and I wouldn't be able to get the 5-beast soul manipulation knack from you? That's funny. Just you wait. In no time, the 5-beast soul manipulation knack will be in my hand. Bei Xiu held his fists tight as coldness spread in his eyes. Jian Wushuang, who had just left the palace, looked extremely solemn too. Bei Xiu recognized the 5-beast soul manipulation knack and knows that the 5-beast soul manipulation knack is from out of Tianling land. Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were tightly knitted. He never expected that. Tianling land was merely a mystery land that Lineage of Star controlled. Theoretically, the experts in Tian Yuan Mystery Land and the Eternal Chaotic World shouldn't be in contact. Those impressive techniques or secret skills in Eternal Chaotic World, the experts in Tianling Land shouldn't be able to recognize them. But in the end, Bei Xiu came to a realization. Luckily, he only noticed that my 5-beast soul manipulation knack came from Tianling Land but couldn't tell that I'm a cultivator from out of Tianling Land. Plus, I am a peak 3-starred Soul Master of Soul Master Hall and I'm on Soul Island. Even if Bei Xiu has a powerful background, he couldn't deal with me publicly. In other words, I am still in a safe situation as of now. Even so, I have to be extremely careful. Jian Wushuang was already extremely careful. Then, Jian Wushuang continued to stay on Soul Island. He cultivated on Soul Island and he often headed over to the battleground to fight with other soul masters to learn from them. His 5-beast soul manipulation knack was merely beginner level. He had masses of room for improvement. Time flowed past like water. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang stayed on Soul Island for 260 years. In the 260 years, he spent all his time and effort on familiarizing himself with the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. In those years, he fought countless times with a large number of soul masters. Along with the fights, he mastered the 5-beast soul manipulation knack even better. Until then, he was at the great achievement stage of 5-beast soul manipulation knack. In the secret room, Jian Wushuang sat down as his eyes twinkled with brightness. Great achievement stage of 5-beast soul manipulation knack. My soul attack became fiercer, scarier. My overall power improved tremendously too. It's a pity that after so many years of cultivation, my soul power has yet to break through the bottleneck. Jian Wushuang felt regretful. His soul power had already reached the limit of an advanced universe god in the 3rd heaven back when he was in Lineage of Star. He had nearly leveled up to peak universe god in the 3rd heaven. But it was a pity that the last step took him so long. If his soul power were to have a breakthrough again, his soul attack would improve tremendously. Jian Wushuang. The voice was from outside the secret room. Jian Wushuang was surprised but immediately appeared outside the secret room. Feng Tao, Hui Yi, why did the two of you come? Jian Wushuang looked at the two of them outside the secret room. Although Jian Wushuang often fought with others to learn from them during his stay on Soul Island, he never had any friends. The closest ones were Feng Tao and Hui Yi. "We were looking for you, Feng Tao. What's happened?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Hui Yi, you say it," Feng Tao looked at Hui Yi. "Well," Hui Yi started explaining, "I am having trouble in cultivation and I'll require a few desolate crystal for assistance." "But desolate crystals? They are too precious. Although there are many soul masters who have desolate crystals, their asking price is too high. I can't afford it, so I can only go to the deserted region to hunt those beasts." Desolate crystals? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Jian Wushuang had stayed on Soul Island for such a long period, but he knew since long ago that the desolated crystal was Tianling crystal. It was merely a different name. Before he came to Tianling Mystery Land, Hall Master Yuan assigned him a task, which was for him to collect 10 Tianling crystals. "You came to look for me because you want me to go to the deserted region with you?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Yes," Hui Yi nodded, "the deserted region is the most dangerous place in Tianling Land. There are countless beasts in the region and they are all very strong. If I were to go to the deserted region alone to hunt the beast, it would be rather unrealistic. So, I am asking you and Feng Tao, hoping both of you will go with me. Then, I would be more secure. Of course, I only want 2 pieces of desolated crystals that we get from hunting the beast. You can take the rest of them. If you are willing to help me, Hui Yi, won't turn you down if you need any help in the future. Even if you wanted me to go through a mountain of swords and a sea of flames." Jian Wushuang exchanged a glance with Feng Tao and they smiled. "I'm just going to the deserted region with you. You don't have to go through a mountain of swords and a sea of flames," Feng Tao smiled. "Hui Yi, when would you like to go?" Jian Wushuang asked. "The sooner the better," Hui Yi said. "Now, then," Jian Wushuang smiled. Hui Yi and Feng Tao were the closest friends he had in Soul Island. Jian Wushuang naturally wouldn't refuse keeping Hui Yi company and making a trip to the deserted region. On top of that, even if Hui Yi wasn't going, he would definitely need to head to the deserted region himself at some point. His task required him to go there after all. He had been practicing the 5-beast soul manipulation knack and he didn't care about the task. However, when he was going to leave Tianling Mystery Land in the future, he was going to have to head to the deserted region to get the 10 Tianling crystals. "If so, let's go now," Hui Yi said. Jian Wushuang, Feng Tao, and Hui Yi immediately left Soul Island and departed towards the deserted region. But just as Jian Wushuang took one step to leave, Mr. Bei Xiu was immediately notified. Chapter 1389, Deserted Region. Chapter 1389, Deserted Region. In a lofty palace, Bei Xiu, who was being entertained by a few beautiful concubines, revealed a shocked gaze. "Finally. He is finally willing to leave Soul Island." Bei Xiu looked unusually cold. "Jian Wushuang, I waited for you for so long. I thought you would stay on Soul Island for the rest of your life." Soul Island was the headquarters of Soul Master Temples. Although he had a strong background, it was best if he didn't take action against Jian Wushuang openly. But then, it was different if Jian Wushuang left Soul Island. "If you're leaving, don't return for the rest of your life." There was murderous intention spreading across Bei Xiu's sight. The very next moment, he left his palace. In a deserted region. A place that was publicly acknowledged to be very dangerous in Tianling Land. Even the top gods in Tianling Land didn't dare to let loose when they were to be in the deserted region. After all, there was a real god that had fallen in the deserted region. The deserted region was famous for its beasts. Jian Wushuang, Feng Tao, and Hui Yi had already arrived in the deserted region. However, from the beginning, they had merely wandered around the border of the deserted region, not daring to go in deep. "It's a beast." Feng Tao turned to look and Jian Wushuang looked too. They immediately saw a unique-looking beast hiding among the bushes at the end of their sight. That is the beast. Jian Wushuang could feel the beast's aura, which was rather unique. It was obviously different from the beast on Tianling land and the eternal chaotic world. And that was the kind of beast that could nurture Tianling crystal. It's a pity that it is merely a rank 2 beast, Hui shook his head. Jian Wushuang shrugged. He also knew that only when a beast reached rank 3 could it be compared favorably with a 3-starred soul master or a level 3 divine general, which was when they had successfully nurtured a desolate crystal. As for those below rank 3, the crystal would only be under the process. Even if they got it, there wouldn't be much point. Jian Wushuang's task was to get 10 desolate crystals. The desolate crystals, of course, had to be complete crystals. In other words, he had to find a way to kill 10 beasts that could compare favorably with 3-starred soul masters and level 3 divine generals. Look for them slowly. Although this is the border of the deserted region, there is still danger. We have to be careful. Feng Tao said. Jian Wushuang and Hui both nodded, then the three of them continued to go forward into the woods. After a few days. Rumble. The green giant who was giving out a green gleam wielded his mace ferociously at the beast before him, which was more than 5 meters in size. The beast swung a punch and collided with the green giant's mace directly. Bang! There was a loud collision and the green giant fell a few steps back. Die! Hui roared and suddenly he appeared behind the beast and he was holding a purple spear in his hand. The spear was consolidated via consciousness and stabbed at the beast. Roar! The beast let out an earth-shattering bellow and it turned and hit the green giant. The terrifying impact shattered the long spear and Hui's figure flew out altogether. But then, a demonic dragon with a soaring aura entangled the beast's body straight away. The demonic dragon had great power and it squashed the beast with intensity. At the same time, its dragon claw seized the beast's back spine while it chewed on the beast's skull. Kacha! Although the beast's defense power was strong, the demonic dragon's bite broke it into 2 and a large amount of blood and flesh splashed around. The beast's body shook and finally collapsed. Swoosh! Swoosh! Feng Tao and Hui appeared before Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, you're the best. Hui and I can't do anything about it. Feng Tao looked at the dead body before him and laughed. Of course. Jian Wushuang is a peak 3-starred soul master. How could a beginner 3-starred soul master like us be comparable? Hui said. Hui, hurry and dig out the desolate crystal, Jian Wushuang said. Hui beamed with joy. He immediately squatted down to dissect the beast. Very quickly, he picked up a shimmering emerald green crystal. A desolate crystal. This is a good one. Hui held the emerald green crystal and smiled delightedly. This is only the first one. Look how happy you are. We have a peak 3-starred soul master like Jian Wushuang, so now we can have however many desolate crystal we want, Feng Tao laughed. I'm flattered. I can only deal with weaker level 3 beasts. If we were to come across some that were stronger, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang, Feng Tao, I have a suggestion, Hui suddenly said. Jian Wushuang and Feng Tao looked at Hui. The deserted region is huge. Although it is only the border, it is still rather vast. Although there are many level 3 beasts around this area, it is not easy to find them. The three of us spent a few days finding just one and that was considered lucky. If we were to be unlucky, we might not find one that we could deal with even in 10 days or half a month. So, I suggest that we part ways and look for the beasts. What do you think? Hui said. Separately? Jian Wushuang was fine with the idea but Feng Tao creased his eyebrows slightly. The possibility to find a level 3 beast if we were to go in separate ways is definitely greater. However, the probability to come across danger increases tremendously too. It's fine with Jian Wushuang, but if it were to be either one of us, we might lose our lives. Don't worry. As long as we are not too far away and we keep in contact, once any of us is in danger, the other two can rush over for support, Hui Yi smiled and explained. I'm fine with this, Feng Tao nodded in agreement. If they were not too far apart, they definitely could rush to one another in time with their traveling speed. Let's part ways then, Jian Wushuang smiled. The three of them immediately split up in the deserted region. Although they had separated, the three of them kept in touch at all times so that they knew one another's rough location. Jian Wushuang continued to look for rank 3 beasts in the region. Only on the third day after they separated did Jian Wushuang find a rank 3 beast. The beast doesn't have a strong aura. It should have just turned into a rank 3 beast not long ago. It is much weaker compared to the one I killed earlier. I can deal with it alone, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and then took quick action. After a while, Jian Wushuang killed the beast directly. Then, he picked up a desolate crystal from its dead body. Chapter 1390, Scheme. Chapter 1390, Scheme. The first Tian Ling crystal. Jian Wushuang looked at the emerald crystal in his hand and revealed a smile. Jian Wushuang, a Tian Ling crystal is a really good treasure. It is definitely helpful to improve your soul power. If it's possible, try to get more. King of Venomous Worms' voice was heard in Jian Wushuang's head. I understand, Jian Wushuang nodded. Just then. Jian Wushuang, quick, save me. Jian Wushuang received an extremely urgent SOS message and his face grew grave. It's Hui Yi. He's asking for help. Jian Wushuang looked towards where Hui Yi was. Hurry up. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang came to the rescue straight away. He immediately sent a message to Feng Tao on his way there, but Feng Tao didn't reply. What's going on? Feng Tao didn't reply at all. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. However, due to the urgency, he didn't have enough time to think much. He could only rush over with his fastest speed to where Hui Yi was. Hui Yi's location wasn't far from him. With his travel speed, he managed to reach him in a few breaths. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang's figure was stopped on the tree crown, but his gaze grew cold. Hui Yi, what are you doing? Jian Wushuang looked forward, right at Hui Yi who stood on the ground. When Hui Yi saw Jian Wushuang's arrival, he put his hands behind him and stood there in silence with a malicious smile plastered on his face. He didn't even look in a fix, let alone in life danger. Jian Wushuang, don't blame me. Whatever that Master Bei Xiu is offering is too tempting, I can't reject him, Hui Yi smiled. Master Bei Xiu. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. He, Jian Wushuang, at last, we meet again. A vicious laugh was heard, then a figure slowly appeared before the thick forest. It was no other than Bei Xiu. The very moment Bei Xiu appeared, another two figures came from nowhere. They blocked Jian Wushuang's way and Jian Wushuang could tell that they were both peak 3-starred soul masters from their armband. Even if Jian Wushuang was distracted, he immediately came back to reality with the sight before him. I'm trapped. It is a lie that he has trouble in cultivation. It is also a lie that he needs desolate crystals. His goal is to lead me to the deserted region and create an opportunity for Bei Xiu. Jian Wushuang's gaze turned cold. Jian Wushuang, I guess not everyone is like you and can resist the temptation of Feng Ling Nak, Bei Xiu smiled viciously. He had used Feng Ling Nak to buy Hui Yi over. Hence the scene before his eyes. How about Feng Tao? Jian Wushuang stared at Hui Yi. Don't worry. He naturally has someone to take care of him, Hui Yi smiled. Jian Wushuang, instead of worrying about the other person, why not be worried for yourself? Bei Xiu sneered, previously, on Soul Island, I really couldn't do anything to you. But then, in this deserted region. The deserted region is so dangerous. It is normal that a person or two die here. Oh. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and laughed. Aren't you scared that you couldn't get the manipulation method from me if you killed me? Of course I'm worried. So, I don't intend to kill you. I only want to catch you alive. Only if I catch you alive will I be able to get whatever I want from your head. Bei Xiu smiled but didn't bother talking to Jian Wushuang further. Come on then. Virum. Virum. Two fierce consciousnesses exploded straightway. The two peak 3-starred soul masters that Bei Xiu hired had murderous intentions surging in their eyes. Then, two giants formed by consciousness entirely appeared. The moment the giants appeared, they were covered in armor, boots and helmets. One of their hands held a sword and the other held a shield. Boundless auras were emanating from the two giants. Chapter 1391, The Strongest Technique. Chapter 1391, The Strongest Technique. Ah! The man in a crimson robe, who was struck by inextinguishable light, immediately shouted and his face distorted in agony. He held his head and his body shivered while the huge consciousness giant collapsed. Go! Jian Wushuang roared and his soul power surged. There were 4 demonic dragons that swept out immediately. They entangled the 2 consciousness giants and suppressed them. Rubbish! You are all peak 3-starred soul masters. 2 against 1, and the 2 of you are seized. Bei Xiu stood there as he watched the battle before him. He couldn't help but curse. He flipped his palm and a black, mysterious long spear appeared in his hand. Huh! Jian Wushuang noticed Bei Xiu take out a long spear and his pupils contracted. He could tell that the long spear wasn't ordinary. It should be a treasure used for a consciousness attack. Jian Wushuang, you must be careful, King of Venomous Worms reminded. Jian Wushuang nodded and his face grew solemn. Go! Bei Xiu moved his wrist and the long spear shot forward. Whoop! The black long spear let out a terrifying force and broke through the void before it with ease. Jian Wushuang saw that there was suddenly a huge black hole that had appeared from nowhere while there was a faint light in the core of the black hole. Virum. Vast soul power soared into the air and Jian Wushuang formed a black tortoise shell on his body. The black tortoise let out a low bellow and blocked the black long spear. Bang! A loud bang and the black tortoise that had just formed shattered into pieces. So powerful? Jian Wushuang was surprised. A powerful force erupted. Even though the force was resisted and weakened by the black tortoise, it could be compared favorably with an attack of an advanced universe god in the 3rd heaven in eternal chaotic world. Even with Jian Wushuang's divine body, dealing with such an impact immediately made him spit out a mouthful of blood and fly backwards like a bullet. He only managed to stand on his feet again after a while. His face had grown very pale. So strong. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He could tell that the power during the black long spear's peak could be compared favorably with a peak universe god in the 3rd heavens. It was formed by consciousness entirely, a solid attack. Luckily, the black tortoise shell has weakened by more than half and I have the blood-killing plate armor to protect my body. Otherwise, against the long spear, I definitely would die. Jian Wushuang was glad. Jian Wushuang, Bei Xiu is very strong. Stop concealing your power. Otherwise, you'll die, King of Venomous Worms said in Jian Wushuang's head. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded. He saw that the 2 peak 3-starred soul masters that Bei Xiu brought had recovered and they could totally join forces with Bei Xiu to fight against him altogether. Secret skill of Star Palace. Jian Wushuang didn't dare to hold back but performed the secret skill of Star Palace and the power spread across his whole body. I only have 10 breaths time. I can't delay. Make it quick. Jian Wushuang's face turned cold and the very next moment, he rampaged towards where Bei Xiu was at. Asking for death. Looking at Jian Wushuang's surprise attack, Bei Xiu smirked coolly. The black long spear in his hand had a layer of light and it flew out again. Rumble. There was a huge black hole in the void again. There was madness in Jian Wushuang's eyes and there was an enormous amount of soul power soaring out from his sea of consciousness. Inextinguishable light. Swoosh. The silent light attacked again. The only difference was that Jian Wushuang performed the trick with the secret skill of Star Palace. With the support of the power of Star, the light's power suddenly increased tenfold. The power that Bei Xiu's long spear gave out was equal to an attack of a peak universe god in the third heaven, while the inextinguishable light that I performed with my all, along with the support of the power of Star shouldn't be any weaker than an attack of a peak universe god in the third heaven. If they were to collide, they could definitely fight against one another. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold and Blood Mountain sword appeared from nowhere. Blood Mountain sword. Ever since he entered Soul Master Temple, he kept the sword in Qian Kun Ring. During the years in Soul Island, he always battles with his soul attack but never once took out Blood Mountain sword or used any sword technique. Naturally, no one knew that he was also a powerful warrior besides his identity of a soul master. Then, he was going to show his warrior power. Bang! A low, soft noise was heard. It wasn't loud but the sound of large forces colliding came through. The entire battlefield drowned in a huge consciousness storm. It was a chaotic situation. Just then, there was a swoosh in the consciousness storm. A figure flew out. Huh? Bei Xiu stiffened, he took my spear attack directly. Then, Bei Xiu resumed normalcy, if so, let's see how you handle this. Bei Xiu smirked, this is the first time I have performed this trick after mastering it. You should feel honored. Then, there was a bright crimson light that shot out from Bei Xiu's eyes. The crimson light was just like a scarlet sun, extremely eye-catching. Jian Wushuang, who was charging towards him, couldn't help but lift his head to watch. The moment he lifted his head, there was a strange strength. Dreamland? Jian Wushuang immediately came to a realization, then he smiled, it's such a joke that you're trying to pull me into Dreamland. Jian Wushuang wasn't affected at all but continued to speed towards him. What? Bei Xiu was surprised. It was his biggest trump card. He had only mastered it after a long time. However, it didn't have any effect on Jian Wushuang when he put it to play. How is this possible? He didn't know that Jian Wushuang had already lit his soul fire. Plus, his soul power was extremely strong and very close to a peak universe god in the third heavens. At times like this, Dreamland and similar techniques like consciousness attacks had to be performed by a real god to have an effect on him. He wasn't afraid of Dreamland at all. He was afraid of a solid attack that was consolidated through consciousness. Just like the long spear that Bei Xiu used earlier. Although it was played via consciousness, it was solid. Its power equaled an attack of a peak universe god in the third heaven that would be able to harm Jian Wushuang. Bei Xiu's strongest technique didn't have any effect on Jian Wushuang, and then he saw Jian Wushuang holding a sword. Sword? Warrior? Bei Xiu stared. Chapter 1392, Kill. Chapter 1392, Kill. Buzz. A cold sword light suddenly flashed. During his years in Tianling Land, he had been practicing the manipulation method of consciousness. He had almost never used his sword before. His swordsmanship maintained its standard when he was in Lineage of Star. His creation stopped at beginner rank 3 unique skill. However, the beginner rank 3 unique skill was still rather scary to a 3-starred soul master. So fast. So furious. There was a flash of shock in Bei Xiu's eyes. There was suddenly an unprecedented danger that soared from the bottom of his heart. What a soul master feared the most was fighting in close combat with a warrior of the same rank because they were not skilled with close combat. In a normal situation, a peak 3-starred soul master who got approached by a beginner level 3 divine general would likely be killed directly. But then... Die! Jian Wushuang suddenly erupted his divine power, and the sword principle that he performed let out a shrill cry. Although Bei Xiu immediately formed a layer of consciousness blockage, a ray of sword light broke it like it was breaking dead wood at the very moment that the consciousness blockage was formed. The cold sword light continued to plunge towards Bei Xiu's skull. Shit! Bei Xiu's face suddenly changed. Jian Wushuang, stop! My mother is... Bei Xiu bellowed, but he had yet to finish his sentence. Pust! The cold sword light stabbed through his throat. Bei Xiu could barely move his mouth and his eyes grew dim. Jian Wushuang was filled with a murderous intention. Your mother. You're going to kill me, why would I care about who your mother is? Jian Wushuang gripped his Blood Mountain sword in his hand tightly and he looked towards Hua Yi and the 2 peak 3-starred soul masters nearby. Hua Yi and the other 2 peak 3-starred soul masters saw that Bei Xiu had been killed and they were terrified. Hurry up and run. The 3 of them started running crazily without hesitation. There are still 6 breaths left. Kill all these people altogether. Jian Wushuang gave them a sharp glare. In the process of killing Bei Xiu, he had merely used 4 breaths of time. His secret skill of Star Palace was still sufficient to support 6 breaths of time. The 6 breaths of time was for killing the 3 people before him. He knew it'd be enough. Buzz! An enormous amount of blazing quicksand swept out and covered the entire universe. It covered Hua Yi and the other 2 people who were running in a craze. The effect of the quicksand took place and their speed slowed down tremendously. Jian Wushuang first ran before the 2 peak 3-starred soul masters. Die! There was a murderous intention in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Without holding back, the moment the 2 people got closer to the secret skill of Tian Yuan, sword light spurted out. According to the strength of his soul power then, even if the secret skill of Tian Yuan wasn't supported by the power of Star, the 2 peak 3-starred soul masters found it hard to resist. With the support of the power of Star, the power of his secret skill increased by 10-fold. Ah! The 2 peak 3-starred soul masters gave out a blood-curdling scream. Then, the sword light went through their bodies. After killing the 2 peak 3-starred soul master, Jian Wushuang moved and came behind Hua Yi. Jian Wushuang, no, Mr. Wushuang, please let me live. Look at our past relationship, let me live. Hua Yi ran as he pleaded for mercy. Past relationship? Such a joke, Jian Wushuang sneered. Hua Yi had schemed against him for Feng Ling Nak. He hadn't taken their relationship into consideration at all. Then, he brought up their relationship. Die! Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and swept out a ray of sword light. With the assistance of Blaze Quicksand, he killed Hua Yi directly. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang finally stopped and the surrounding Blaze Quicksand dispersed. Everything resumed its tranquility. Phew! 10 breaths time, just nice. Jian Wushuang let out a sigh. From the time when he had really fought and performed the secret skill of Star Palace to when he had killed Bei Xiu and the 2 peak 3-starred soul masters, until he killed Hua Yi in the end, he had used 10 breaths of time. The moment the time was up, his power of Star was exhausted. Hua Yi. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold when he looked at Hua Yi's dead body. His palm quivered and his body shattered into pieces. Then, Jian Wushuang came before Bei Xiu's dead body. Bei Xiu, peak 3-starred soul master, a big figure who has friends in high places in Soul Island. You could recognize 5 beast soul manipulation knack and knew it was hard to come by. It's a pity that you belittled me, Jian Wushuang sounded so cold. Bei Xiu really belittled him. Actually, with Bei Xiu's power, he could entirely fight Jian Wushuang face to face. He could even wait till Jian Wushuang's power of star ran out, then seize the chance to defeat him and kill him. However, from the very beginning, or to be exact, when Bei Xiu saw Jian Wushuang in Soul Island for the very first time, he had already belittled Jian Wushuang. He thought Jian Wushuang was just an ordinary peak 3-starred soul master and he got the 5 beast soul manipulation knack by luck. He thought with his power alone, along with the 2 peak 3-starred soul master, he could easily win against Jian Wushuang. He didn't know that Jian Wushuang wasn't like other ordinary people, but an enduring genius who came from outside of Tianling land and was directly under the command of the lineage of Star. Not only was he a soul master, he was also a terrifying warrior. In his hand, he held many trump cards. His consciousness had already transformed into soul power. Everything brought up Jian Wushuang's power, which was extremely fierce. However, for Bei Xiu, he never thought of those. Especially when he put his strongest technique to play, Jian Wushuang wasn't affected at all and Bei Xiu was dumbfounded at the sight. Later on, when Jian Wushuang showed his warrior capabilities, it was totally beyond Bei Xiu's imagination. Although he reacted in the moment, he was slightly slow in the end and Jian Wushuang had managed to succeed. However, Jian Wushuang understood that if he were to be an expert from the eternal chaotic world with the same ability, the possibility of him succeeding would be much smaller. Buzz! The same strength swept out and Bei Xiu's dead body was buried in oblivion. Jian Wushuang then took the Qian Kun ring and long spear that Bei Lu left behind. Consciousness attack long spear. Jian Wushuang first looked at the long spear. The black long spear gave him a mysterious feeling and his senses towards consciousness became stronger. Actually, Bei Xiu's consciousness attack wasn't strong. However, with the support of the long spear, it became terrifying. The long spear is definitely a treasure. Now, it's in my hand, Jian Wushuang smiled. He wasn't in a hurry for the long spear to recognize him as an owner but he looked at the Qian Kun ring. Bei Xiu has a strong background in Soul Island. I believe his family background wasn't ordinary either. I wonder what other treasures are in his Qian Kun ring and whether I can use them. Chapter 1393, Leave. Chapter 1393, Leave. With a tinge of excitement, Jian Wushuang started to check the Qian Kun ring that Bei Xiu had left behind. In his Qian Kun ring, there were various treasures. Many were priceless. Jian Wushuang was astonished. I'm impressed. Although I am a disciple of Star Palace, forgetting the few unique treasures like Mountain River Map, Blood-Killing Plate Armor, Blood Mountain Sword, I can't compare to Bei Xiu, Jian Wushuang gasped in silence. Very soon, he was attracted by the 20 crystals in the Qian Kun ring. Tianling crystal, so many of them. Jian Wushuang was astonished. One would only be able to get it by hunting beasts that were rank 3 and above in the deserted region. There was a total of 20 pieces of desolate crystal, which were extremely precious in Tianling land, in Bei Xiu's Qian Kun ring. Jian Wushuang's disciple task was to only collect 10 Tianling crystals. Thus, he completed his task in this instance. He even had 10 extra Tianling crystals. We're both peak 3-starred soul masters but it's totally different when one has background experience and when one doesn't, Jian Wushuang sighed. He already inspected the other 2 peak 3-starred soul masters' Qian Kun ring. However, the treasures in the 2 rings didn't value 1/10 of Bei Xiu's. This is. Jian Wushuang was suddenly attracted by a wooden slip book that gave out unique energy in the Qian Kun ring. He could feel the uniqueness of the wooden slip book. I wonder what this wooden slip book contains. Jian Wushuang covered it with his soul power immediately. At the very next moment, Jian Wushuang's eyes were wide open. How could this be? Jian Wushuang was shocked by the contents of the wooden slip book. It was a secret skill. If it were to be any ordinary secret skill, or a secret skill that was famous in Tianling land, he wouldn't be shocked. Hence, he only reacted that way because the secret skill was 18 Azura Hell. It is the strongest consciousness attack secret skill created by the top expert in Tianling land, real god demonic rain. It was with Bei Xiu. Jian Wushuang stared in disbelief. He had heard Feng Tao mention the real god demonic rain before. Real god demonic rain started Soul Master Temple and, at the same time, created Soul Island. Her existence on Tianling land was definitely godlike. The strongest secret skill, 18 Azura Hell that she had created was extremely famous too. However, because real god demonic rain was too aloof, many powerful real gods in Soul Island were not qualified to meet real god demonic rain even once. As for the strongest consciousness attack secret skill created by real god demonic rain, almost no one had seen it before. But then, Jian Wushuang found the secret skill left in Bei Xiu's Qian Kun ring and it was a complete one. Bei Xiu was famous in Soul Island and everyone knew that he possessed a strong background, but no one knew what sort of background he had. He only knew that real gods in Soul Island were polite to him. Before he died, he spoke about his mother. Would his mother be real god demonic rain? Then, Jian Wushuang couldn't help but gasp. Actually, judging from the situation where Bei Xiu possessed 18 Azura Hell, his mother was most likely real god demonic rain. No wonder he could recognize my 5-beast soul manipulation knack. Real god demonic rain has been outside of Tianling land, which meant that she had wandered in the eternal chaotic world before. With her power, she was naturally qualified to access 5-beast soul manipulation knack. Bei Xiu was his son and it was normal that he found out about the 5-beast soul manipulation knack from her. Great, I killed the son of the top expert in Tianling land? Jian Wushuang sighed. Just then. Jian Wushuang, where are you? A message was transmitted. The communication token suddenly exploded. I killed Bei Xiu. Although there was no one who saw, if real god demonic rain were to be angry and start to investigate, she might suspect me. Once I'm caught, I won't stand a chance. In other words, Soul Island or even Tianling land is not safe for me. Jian Wushuang knew his situation clearly. Hence, he didn't reply Feng Tao and he even destroyed the communication token. What he was doing was making people think that Bei Xiu, Hui Yi, and the rest of them had disappeared from the deserted region altogether. It would get the best result. He didn't belong in Tianling land. As there was no place for him anyway, he could just leave. I've been in Tianling Mystery Land for almost 300 years, it's time to return, Jian Wushuang smiled. He had come to Tianling Mystery Land for experience and train his soul attack. Then, he was at the stage of great achievement for 5-beast soul manipulation knack and he had already reached his goal. Plus, he had already completed the task to collect 10 Tianling crystals. Hence, there was nothing left for him in Tianling Mystery Land. Jian Wushuang immediately tore the token for leaving Mystery Land. The token broke and a space wormhole appeared before Jian Wushuang. Goodbye Tianling land. Jian Wushuang chuckled. He took a leap into the wormhole without hesitation. When there was a flash of light again, Jian Wushuang arrived on the island that lineage of star control. There were still countless cultivators gathered there to wait for space wormhole to open. After Jian Wushuang had arrived on the island, he immediately returned to Lineage of Stars' old lair. In the resplendent Milky Way, there was Lineage of Stars' old lair. Jian Wushuang saw Hall Master Yuan. Young man, how did it go in Tianling Mystery Land? Plain sailing. Hall Master Yuan smiled and looked over. Quite well, Jian Wushuang smiled and he took out the 10 Tian Ling crystals. The task that Hall Master Yuan assigned me has been completed. Hall Master Yuan looked at the 10 Tian Ling crystals and nodded. These Tian Ling crystals are very useful, especially for consciousness and souls. You should keep them as you happen to need them. Jian Wushuang was touched but he didn't reject. The Tian Ling crystals were really useful to him. Looking at you now, you have had a bountiful harvest during the years in Tian Ling Mystery Land, huh? Hall Master Yuan looked. Thinking about the gains made over the years, Jian Wushuang revealed a smile. Chapter 1394, On Tai Yuan Star. Chapter 1394, On Tai Yuan Star. He was in Tian Ling Mystery Land for almost 300 years. His gains were far beyond his expectations before. At first, he had only intended to improve his manipulation method of soul power and his grasp of 5-beast soul manipulation knack with the aid of a large number of soul masters in Tian Ling Mystery Land. He thought it would be good enough if he could achieve the initial success stage for the 5-beast soul manipulation knack. But then, he was at great achievement stage for 5-beast soul manipulation knack. On top of that, the battles with various soul masters allowed him to accumulate an abundance of experience. Besides, he had killed Bei Xiu and obtained the black long spear and other treasures. Not forgetting his obtainment of the consciousness attack method, 18 Azura Hell. With all of that on hand, he had certainly gained a bounty. Oh yeah, Hall Palace Yuan. When I was wandering in Tian Ling Mystery Land, someone talked about the utmost expert in Tian Ling Mystery Land, real god Demonic Rain. It was said that she left Tian Ling Mystery Land before to wander in the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Yes, real god Demonic Rain did wander around the eternal chaotic world before. Even within the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, she gained fame. Her consciousness attack was extremely terrifying. Among the real gods who are good at consciousness attack in the eternal chaotic world, she is definitely in the top 5. Especially the 18 Azura Hell that she created, it's extremely impressive. In terms of her overall power, she is on the list of real gods. Although she was slightly lower than Lei Chao, her kind of power is extremely rare. Hall Palace Yuan explained. As expected, Jian Wushuang was impressed. The experts listed on the real gods list were a bunch of real gods that could carry out a massacre. No wonder real god Demonic Rain had been treated so highly in Tian Ling Land. Real god Demonic Rain also knew that Tian Ling Mystery Land, where she was under the command of Lineage of Star. She didn't dare to resist. Hence, she once made a deal with Lineage of Star with her identity as an expert in Tian Ling Mystery Land. The context of the deal was that the disciples from Lineage of Star could enter Tian Ling Mystery Land for training. Regardless of any treasure that they obtain from Tian Ling Mystery Land, they can take care of them themselves. Similarly, if the disciples were to die in Tian Ling Mystery Land, we Lineage of Star couldn't blame the cultivators in Tian Ling Mystery Land, Hall Master Yuan said. Oh, I see. Jian Wushuang nodded quietly. Jian Wushuang didn't ask further. After having a simple understanding of real god Demonic Rain, he returned to Sword Star. Sword Star. It's been almost 300 years since I last came back. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He couldn't help but crease his eyebrows after he returned to Sword Star. He was a disciple of Star Palace. On Sword Star, he had many maids and servants. However, it was extremely quiet on Sword Star then. When his soul power swept over the place, there was no one. What's going on? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows then took out a communication token, Qiu Yu. Mister, you came back from the Mystery Land? Qiu Yu replied very quickly. I just got back, Jian Wushuang replied and immediately asked, why, when I returned to Sword Star, is no one here? Where did all of you go? Mister, we are all on Tai Yuan Star. Qiu Yu replied. Taiyuan Star. Medicine Garden. What are you all going there? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. Nothing. Mr. Bai Lipeng needed some assistance and he asked for help, Chiu Yu replied. He looked to you for help. Jian Wushuang found it weird. Wait for me there. I will come to Taiyuan Star now. Jian Wushuang told Chiu Yu and immediately departed to Taiyuan Star. Taiyuan Star was the biggest star in the lineage of star formation. Due to its huge area, the lineage of star set the medicine garden on Taiyuan Star. Many medicinal materials for elixirs that cultivators could use were planted on Taiyuan Star. As it was a medicine garden, it naturally required someone to look after it. Chapter 1395, Lesson. Chapter 1395, Lesson. When he was communicating with Chiu Yu and found out that they were on Taiyuan Star, Jian Wushuang found it fishy. After all, Chiu Yu and the others were their own servants. What they wanted to do was to serve him and help him to take care of Sword Star. Why would they need to work elsewhere? Then, looking at the sight before him, Jian Wushuang didn't need to ask and he understood. Young man, who are you? The bald elderly holding a green whip looked at Jian Wushuang as he squinted his eyes. Sword Star, Jian Wushuang spoke coldly. Jian Wushuang? Disciple of Star Palace? The bald elderly was shocked. Although he was a universe god in the third heaven, he wasn't the real disciple of lineage of Star. In other words, he was just a servant in lineage of Star. He didn't have any identity token and hence he couldn't feel the aura of disciples of Star Palace on Jian Wushuang. He couldn't feel the token aura but he had heard of Jian Wushuang's name. Even though they were in lineage of Star, the ordinary disciples didn't bother with Jian Wushuang, however, he wasn't someone a servant could provoke and get involved with. I see. It's Mr. Jian Wushuang. I am Bai Lipeng, the bald elderly replied humbly. Bai Lipeng? You're the one who brought my people to Taiyuan Star. Jian Wushuang spoke in a low voice. This. Mr. Jian Wushuang, I think you misunderstood. I never forced them to work here. They came willingly. You can ask them if you do not believe me, the bald elderly Bai Lipeng smiled faintly. He wasn't worried that Chiu Yu would tell him the truth because, as long as Chiu Yu wasn't stupid, they would know that their owner couldn't possibly provoke his owner. Hence, they could only say that they did it willingly. Then, the matter would be diminished, which was beneficial for both parties. However, if the truth were to be told and even if Jian Wushuang had the heart to come forward on their behalf, he didn't have the power to. In the end, he would only be inviting trouble. Similarly, it wouldn't end well for them either. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and glanced at the people around him. He noticed that the maids and servants had lowered their heads. Even Chiu Yu stopped before she spoke and then lowered her head like everyone else. Jian Wushuang wasn't surprised but glared at Bai Lipeng. He glared at the whip in his hand and said, Do you think I'm blind? They look like this and you say that they did it willingly? Mr. Jian Wushuang, Bai Lipeng lifted his head and smiled faintly, I'm working for Mr. Xiafeng. Mr. Xiafeng is kind and generous. He knew that we servants have it tough, so he gave us time to cultivate respectively. However, as they were doing so, no one could take care of Taiyuan Star. As such, I asked the people in Sword Star for help. Mr. Xiafeng did it out of empathy with us servants. We can't reject him. I think even Mr. Jian Wushuang wouldn't want to see Mr. Xiafeng unhappy, right? Xiafeng. Jian Wushuang's pupils contracted. He had heard of Xiafeng. He was also a universe god in the second heaven, and also a disciple of Star Palace. The only difference was that Xiafeng had proved his identity with his power long ago but Jian Wushuang. There was almost no one who recognized him to qualify his identity as disciples of Star Palace. So he gave an order for his own people to cultivate, but let the people under my command work for you. That's interesting. Jian Wushuang sneered at him, but his gaze turned cold the very next moment. Forget about the fact if it was Xia Feng's order. Even if it was, we are both disciples of Star Palace. Without my consent, you forced my people to work here on Tai Yuan Star. Does he qualify to do so? Not only did you force my people to work for you, but you also hit my people. Humph. There was a sharp glare in Jian Wushuang's eyes and his figure suddenly charged forward. Jian Wushuang appeared before Bai Lipeng directly, and the latter realized and waited to come to blows. Rumble. A scary soul attack consolidated into a sharp thorn and pierced through Bai Lipeng's sea of consciousness. Ah! Bai Lipeng let out a groan in pain. His eyes turned bloodshot and his consciousness drowned in extreme pain. He lost the ability to fight back. Pack! Jian Wushuang's hand slapped Bai Lipeng's face and Bai Lipeng flew off. At the same time, he grabbed the green whip from Bai Lipeng's hand. You dare to whip my people? Let me teach you a lesson today. A cold voice was heard from Jian Wushuang's mouth. He gripped the long whip and swung. The long whip became a soul snake and whipped Bai Lipeng's body continuously. Pack! 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 The loud whipping sound could be heard clearly, accompanied by Bai Lipeng's roars and bellows. Bai Lipeng was a universe god in the third heaven. He wanted to counterattack with his all. However, as Jian Wushuang wielded the long whip, it naturally contained soul attack. Every whip brought Bai Lipeng into a sluggish situation. He couldn't dodge, nor he could match. He could only embrace every whip on him. In just a short while, he was whipped by Jian Wushuang more than 100 times. From more than 100 lashes, Bai Lipeng's clothes were torn and his skin was worn. Some parts of his bone and flesh were mashed up too. He turned into raw flesh and was extremely pathetic, but he was still alive. Show mercy, Mr. Jian Wushuang. Let me live. Bai Lipeng started pleading. He had no alternative, he had to ask for mercy. If he didn't, he reckoned he would have died from the whipping that Jian Wushuang gave. Humph. Jian Wushuang whipped Bai Lipeng's face once and finally stopped. Listen up. I do not care if it was your personal idea or Xia Feng's order. Let me keep this short. My people, without my consent, cannot be ordered to do anything. Then, Jian Wushuang threw the green whip away. He looked at the maids and servants who were shocked and said, let's go back to Sword Star. Qiu Yu and the rest came back to reality. Then, they immediately followed Jian Wushuang and left Bai Lipeng lying there half dead. Sword Star, in the lofty palace. What happened during the time I wasn't here? Jian Wushuang sat on the throne overlooking at Qiu Yu and the rest of the people. Qiu Yu knelt down. Mr. Qiu Yu didn't manage Sword Star well. If Mr. is angry, blame Qiu Yu alone. I do not want to reprimand you. I just want to know what happened. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. Tell me. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.